citizens. We can't go home. Are we trying to say that renovations of windows and offices are more important than speaking for bloodshed and lives lost yesterday? We cannot, Mr. Speaker. And I, as a young person, as the first young person speaking to this motion, as a youth in this House, I am speaking for the youth who are outside of this House. We cannot go on a recess. It is wrong, and it would be completely insensitive to do so. Mr. Speaker, darkness fears democracy. I rarely wake up in the morning wishing for my eyesight to be restored, but what a sight to be able to behold. This last week had me aching with desire to see my fellow youth in the most spectacular display of patriotism, camaraderie, and putting up a first-rate masterclass on demanding that governments be held to account for the entire world to see. And yes, they have seen. But unity, Mr. Speaker, has been violently gunned down in the streets, not by men, but by monsters who have no concern for human life. Although this government has demonstrated that lifeless Kenyan bodies are not to take precedence over their punitive finance bill, young Kenyans have looked their oppressor dead in the eye and shown them that when it comes down to the wire, there are only two times to be brave: when you feel like it and when you don't. My profound disappointment with the current government and its forceful assault on crowds of innocent youth, Speaker, by its nefarious police officers who have gone rogue on unarmed young citizens peacefully exercising their constitutional right towards an uncaring, corrupt, and wasteful government in their eyes that has turned its back on them, cannot be emphasized enough, Speaker.
You are stealing too much. These kids out here, they know everything. They know your houses. They know where your kids go to school. They know which properties of land you have. Why must somebody have 4 million acres of land to his name? What happened to our mentality? Then we pretend and run to churches talking about Christianity, how Jesus... Do you understand what you are dealing with? You are stealing too much. These kids out here, they know everything. They know your houses. They know where your kids go to school. They know which properties of land you have. Why must somebody have 4 million acres of land to his name? What happened to our mentality? Then we pretend and run to churches talking about Christianity, how Jesus... Do you understand what you are dealing with? The people out here don't even believe in God anymore. The people out here are tired of the lies, the religious organizations. And I have to say this, I'm a Catholic. I was so happy I saw the Purple Nuncio talk about the issues of a country. Let us forget that we can run this country as tribes. Let us accept that there is a new sheriff in town. That sheriff is the GNC. They are partyless, they are tribeless, they don't have money, they just have bundles and a phone.
Are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, and farmers are suffering, fishermen are suffering, and industries are suffering, artisans are suffering, and kayaye are suffering, the disabled are suffering, and men are suffering, women are suffering, and children and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering.
Around saying that our manifesto promises are going to ruin the economy. I'm just so baffled. You, a president, you have presided in 8 years over the collapse of our economy. If you knew the plan that could work for the economy and be successful, why haven't you implemented that plan in 8 years? Why? If you know what can work for our economy, why is the economy collapsing in your hands after 8 years? You clearly do not understand the economic plans and underpinning the MPP manifesto. So your task is to make our economy work. You cannot do it, and now you want to say the MPP plan cannot work. You have essentially no legs to stand on in saying the MPP plan cannot work, because your own plan has collapsed the economy, and we are bringing a new plan for the economy, and a new plan that will work.
Also a very high indebted country, and we began the process of reprofiling Ghana's public debt. As you know, the public debt ended at 122 billion Ghana cedis in 2016. And so we, as a matter of strategy, began the process of reprofiling our debt. This just means that we are replacing more expensive debt with less expensive debt, short-term debt with longer-term debt. This is what is happening. And so you saw that last Friday or so, Ghana issued a bond essentially to do this reprofiling. And in that context, we raised some $2.25 billion of investment that came in to buy this CD-denominated bond. There was a CD bond which was issued for 15 years tenor, 15-year tenor, and that brought in 2.25 billion. But what is so remarkable about this particular transaction, and I think it is, for me, the deal of the year so far, we've been able to reprofile our debt, get more foreign exchange without increasing our debt stock. That is indeed remarkable. Many people didn't quite understand the transaction, and they thought that we had gone to borrow $2 billion to add to Ghana's debt. No, we are actually replacing more expensive debt with less expensive debt, elongating it and making it better for this country.
$1, 1 CD. In the time of Mills and Mahama, 2 CDs, $1. If I was done, I would say to the people of Ghana, I'm sorry. We are sorry for the poor work we have done. We're going to go and think about ourselves. But that is not the people we're dealing with. The fruits of office, the money under the table has become sweet for them, so they're determined to stay. Are we going to allow that to happen? Are we going to allow that to happen? In Kufuor's time, one of the people who advised and helped him develop a strong CD was my running mate, Muhammadu Bawumia. Then he was deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. It's one of the reasons I brought him to come and join me, that we will work on the CD and create again a strong CD that will be able to allow us to develop our economy and allow our traders and our to be able to develop. We have told the world that under our leadership.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob, but you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them, we vote them, we blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our job, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame.
If you reach a certain stage in life and there is nobody who can look you in the eye and tell you the truth, you are doomed. And that is where our country has gotten to. We need to rescue this country, wallahi. And I feel very terrible as a Ghanaian at this time. This country is in serious trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We are in serious trouble. We need to rescue this country, ladies and gentlemen. The presidency has been so depraved, so muddied, so dirtied, that I tell you in all sincerity as a Ghanaian, that I feel terribly sad today as a Ghanaian. We need to rescue this country. Wallahi, inshallah.
Please don't cry.
We shall rescue our country.
Government is broke, government is broke. The people are spending billions to go inside the government that is broke. Have you ever seen a minister who resigned because government is broke before? Government has no money. Have you ever seen a governor who said, ladies and gentlemen, when I was elected, I thought the government had money. Now I discover government has no money, I resign. Have you ever seen it? Government has no money, but they are bringing money out at election time. Where is that money coming from? So they are lying. What is happening is that there are two types of wicked people in government. Type 1, they eat current money. Any money they find in government, they will eat it. They are wicked about that one. There is type 2. Type 2, they eat current money and future money. They will say, my term will end next year. When I leave, how will I eat money? Let me borrow money now and borrow money of the future and eat it now.
Right, hello, good morning and welcome to the show. This is Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV. It's a Wednesday, the 17th day of July 2024. By His grace, we're live and we're here. We're at another edition of the show. Our gratitude to go to the Most High God for the rare privilege of being alive and, of course, the opportunity of having another conversation around the top stories making around here in our dear Republic. I'll let you into our panel for the morning's conversation shortly, but let's take a look at the front pages of our newspapers. Daily Graphic. Inadequate hands hamper autism care. Guarantee Trust Bank votes funds for change. President launches 8.2 billion cedis SME program. LI on MP siren withdrawn. 370 kilometers coastline at risk of destruction. The Ghanaian Times. President launches 8.2 billion cedis deal for SMEs to provide financial technical support for small businesses. Local government minister withdraws controversial road traffic LI. Second phase of Beche-Bilamte interchange to be completed by September. Resident engineer. Fitch Solutions projects positive outlook for Ghana cedi. Daily Guide. Nana launches $8.1 billion SME Go program. NDC MPs fight over lithium committee. Man 27 rapes woman 62. Baomi appointed to lead Ghana. Bwepeura. IGP. Parliament pledge commitment to democracy. The New Crusading Guide. Akufo-Addo pumps $8.1 billion into small, medium-sized enterprises. Malian consulate car rams into commercial bus, kills one. Lawyers demand 1 million cedis compensation. Consul withdraws driver Fatoumata Dite, Hilda Barry. Ghana advocates sustainable financing of housing. Godfred Oparajan writes, the competent, versatile Napo that I know. Afenyo Markin gets new appointment. Majority leader is also ECG board chairman. Osu Stool appoints new lawyers. Land Ministry responds to allegations of state capture. Says Dubois Center not sold. Parks and Gardens land sold in 2016. The Insight. Missing 610 persons. Socialist movement Ghana calls for thorough investigation and arrest of perpetrators. Kumasi public toilet operators announce fee increment due to hike in water and electricity tariffs. New lawyers appointed for Osu Stool. Omahini of Instin Zima Traditional Council distilled. ECOWAS continues its blunders as West Africa splits. The Informer. Legacy project. First Sky to build 50 chapels, 52 bedroom houses. Don't underestimate power of labor. Jimandua warns government. Journalist extols Napo, says it's competent and versatile. ECG rejects voters' transfer allegation, calls for arrest of accusers. LI excluding speed limit for upper class. MPs, judges, others licensed to kill. And promise keeper, make me president, Baumia tells Northern Region. As 2024 Petroleum Conference starts today, NPA boss assures of fruitful deliberations. The Herald. Protest on UHAS campus of honorary doctorate for Akufo-Addo, accused of financially starving university. Declare Peter Mewu's election as Hoho MP null and void. Chachu Chikata tells whole court in Sal case. Public anger forces government to withdraw that about law for MPs, ministers, and judges. Napo heading to Nkrumah's hometown with apology. Alembele DCE announces meeting with family. Mahama raises concerns over Ghana's electoral integrity and politicized Supreme Court. The Daily Statesman. 8.2 billion cedis support program for SMEs. Is it cedis or dollars? Some papers are reporting cedis, others are reporting dollars. Anyway, coastal erosion threatens 5 vital national installations. Mahama government sold Ablakwa state capture lands. Ghana advocates sustainable housing financing. Bopewura declares Bawumia appointed to lead Ghana. The Daily Searchlight. Prison service quarters at cantonment sold? Question. Nigerian High Commission demolition. Businessman absconds with Osustu's $500,000. Dengue fever, Central Region records 25 cases, over 100 more suspected. Dr. Bawumia has been appointed to lead Ghana, Bopewura declares. NSS pedagogy model, reimagining teacher training, shaping futures. The Ghanaian publisher. Mahama sold state capture lands. Jinapo exposes Ablakwa's hypocrisy. Afenyo marking chairs ECG board. Bawumia is God's chosen. Bopewura declares. MPs siren privilege. Anodon press strips NDC MPs naked. Badia calls for greater Arab Africa financial cooperation. The Accra Times. Democracy Cup match. Bagbin invites Akufo-Addo and CJ. Functional democracy. A vibrant civil society needed. Jetro, deputy clerk to Parliament. We don't owe anyone, NSS boss. You work in Christian health facilities. You can go on strike. Koforido Akadle Bishop tells CHAG. The custodian. You are the chosen one. Bopewura to Bawumia. Afenyo Markin appointed ECG board chair. Majority exposes NDC MPs for proposing siren privileges. Mahama sold Ablakwa state capture lands. Now lands minister. The New Finder. 8.2 billion cedis SMEs fund unveiled, the largest investment in the sector in recent years. Ghana pushes for sustainable financing of housing. Ablakwa's NDC sold Parks and Gardens lands, Judges lands, and other state lands. World Bank praises Bank of Ghana's independence and successful policy reforms. Sea erosion threatens 530 megawatt power plants, other critical infrastructure. Dr. Kisi. Daily Post. Join us to reset Ghana. Mahama urges. More than 2 million cedis overpaid to school feeding caterers between 2017 and 2022. Bawumia and the MPP must be punished for their crimes against Ghanaians. APAC. Auditor General cites ECG for procurement breaches in $145 million meters purchase. And the papers that report the $8.1 billion, please, how is that just possible? I hope you appreciate what $8.1 billion is. All right, that'll be it for the front pages. We'll be back shortly.
She's coming. She's coming!
Oh, it's in.
Red Hour receive now!
Boss, let's go back.
Here, take this.
She's coming.
I know. Go to the pharmacy now.
She's coming! Oh. She's here.
Pay faster, pay safer, and pay easy with Momo app. Download now and pay with the QR code, merchant ID, and so much more.
Anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath. I'm afraid Missy Way.
The patch of Bantama.
Mathias.
It's her smile.
The fresh breath.
Me, Judy said we used to Cal 360 toothpaste. Some kind.
Cal 360 toothpaste.
That's Kia. Cal 360 toothpaste. It's a gum protector.
Onim Jom Kasan. Cal 360 did the way. It's cool mint. Gives me fresh breath and your confidence booster.
You will see so feeling to Kawan in a year. Cal 360 toothpaste.
Happy smile.
Cal 360 toothpaste, anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath. Cal, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
In today's modern world, stairs are a challenge, especially for our elderly and those with health concerns. Navigating them can be difficult and even dangerous, but there's a safer way to move vertically. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, your answer to a more accessible and secure vertical transportation. Our elevators and escalators, including top-of-the-line pneumatic vacuum elevators, Fuji elevators and escalators, offer a safer and more convenient alternative, eliminating the risks of stairs and enhancing accessibility for homes, businesses, and hospitals. Choose safety and convenience with Lifts and Elevators Limited Company. Elevate your spaces today. For more information, visit our website at www.elevatorsgh.org or call now on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, the elevator people.
Customer, I don't know who to say.
Malaria been actually no man still.
One give us.
Give us a solid.
Yeah, sorry. But Russell, so give us here and don't come down.
What's over that song? But for me to give us the and some down.
Give us about me, sir.
If I try the and some down.
Customer. Give us a tonto now. Pa.
Onuya kayo, oba wa fa furo nom. De o ma no bonu fo nom. Akwada won mfie dumie no ono nso no.
Rise and shine, it's another day to stay on point. Toast is Friday, it's still on point. Watch is Friday all day long. Still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. Watch is Friday, it's still on point. For your bread, it's creamy. For your toast, it's still on point. It's yummy, delicious. It's still on point. Still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. Still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. For your toast, it's still on point. It's still on point. Fortune spread, it's yummy, delicious. It's still on point.
Fortune spread, delicious, creamy, and always on point. This advert is FDA approved.
Bet, blast, boom! Exclusively on Betway. Win up to 300% more when you play FlyX with Win Boost from Betway. Betway, get way more.
Papa is working.
Herbal Hospital. Specialists in every kind of bone disease.
Herbal Hospital. Baby, a saga with beer. And so, Yadi, Sapa, don't
spinal cord, swelling of the arms, arthritis, bone injury, swelling of the leg with reddish color around it, and so on. See, Herbal Hospital has special ultra-modern machine for checking up the body. I have tried them and I got good results. Try Herbal Hospital.
Yes. Star 712.
Which of this? What we no agree. I'm trying.
Yeah, and now you were back in Greece. To say why you fit a millionaire. Yes, the luckiest at Aroma. To say about from Massa HM. Yeah. Now check this. Sister Abna, aka Kodi Hima. The luckiest at Aroma. Queen B.
Yeah.
Boss lady back up there. Hold on to your seats, folks. Such anyway, it'll be you smooth. Way and your friend will upgrade. Luckiest and Aroma. And the best part that with the luckiest will be our shot to a good life. And I'm talking to you, me, your girlfriend, your ex, your neighbors, your landlords, and even Goro boys. And no one is over dialing with lucky number. Star 712 hash. No.
Coswato ticket to win in the community draw or the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
Stealing too much. These kids out here, they know everything. They know your houses. They know where your kids go to school. They know which properties of land you have. Why must somebody have 4 million acres of land to his name? What happened to our mentality? Then we pretend and run to churches talking about Christianity, how Jesus... Do you understand what you are dealing with? The people out here don't even believe in God anymore. The people out here are tired of the lies, the religious organizations. And I have to say this, I'm a Catholic. I was so happy I saw the Purple No-Show talk about the issues of a country. Let us forget that we can run this country as tribes. Let us accept that there is a new sheriff in town. That sheriff is the GNC. They are partyless, they are tribeless, they don't have money, they just have bundles and a phone.
Currencies depreciate when the fundamentals are wrong. Right. And the mismanagement of this economy in terms of the fundamentals is what was driving the depreciation of the currency. You can't be running double-digit deficits, double-digit current account and fiscal deficits, borrowing to this extent, financing your deficit with huge printing of money from the central bank, right, and expect your currency to be stable. The fundamentals will not support it.
Right.
They will not support
for a bailout. Well, the president says it's policy credibility, not a bailout. What should go in there? Because along the line with your predictions and the lectures you gave, you said that if things don't go well, that is where we might have to go. If we're going for a bailout, what are we asking for?
Well, I think I did make the point, I think, in my last major lecture in Ghana, that if the government doesn't take certain decisions, we will end up with a request for a bailout from the IMF. And this is exactly what has happened. Mismanagement has consequences. Bad policies have consequences. And Ghana is going to...
Right, welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, this is Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV. And today we'll be having the Hajj edition of Good Morning Ghana. But well, July is SME month. And this is music to the ears of all SMEs from MTN. If you own a small or medium-sized business, get ready for an exciting month ahead as MTN Ghana brings you a host of exciting events carefully planned for SMEs across the regions. Businesses will be given the opportunity to set up at the MTN head office at the SME pop-up event from 4th to 30th of July. There will be quizzes on MTN social media pages with exciting prizes to be won. MTN will have developmental and capacity training for SMEs across the regions. There will be promotions and major discounts on MTN's products to boost your pocket and your business. The month's activities will be capped by SME fairs on July 18th to 20th at the Tetekwashi Interchange Triangle, and on July 26th to 28th at the KGTR Market. Don't miss out on an open invitation to gain access to top-notch solutions, exposure to partners, and an opportunity to put your business on the map. Be a part of MTN SME Man 2024. Contact MTN today or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111 to know more. And I keep reminding you that if you're thinking of buying a toothpaste that will serve the entire family and save you some money, the recommended family toothpaste is Kel 360 toothpaste. It's approved by the Food and Drugs Authority. Kel 360 toothpaste provides you and your family with all-round dental protection throughout the day with freshness. Kel 360 toothpaste is good for kids, children, and adults. Let your family be a proud family when they step out by constantly using Kel 360 toothpaste. Kel 360 toothpaste brightens your teeth, prevents cavity, and with its cool mint gives you fresh breath throughout the day and protects the gum from decaying. For consistency and quality, use Kel 360 toothpaste. Kel 360 toothpaste is another product from Samara Company Limited, producers of Sasu. It's available in all supermarkets, malls, and provision shops. You can call Samara Company on 0246 864 798. Kel 360 toothpaste, happy smile. And enjoying the fruits of your labor is as important as enjoying the mansions of your labor. The pains of climbing the stairs, when not exercising, could be challenging irrespective of your age. But worry no more. Lifts and elevators have got you covered with the best portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators on the market today. It's a simple self-supported elevator for both homes and offices. And guess what? It can lift your goods too. Wheelchairs can fit in, and they come in 3 custom-made models. It's affordable and can be installed within 3 days. Visit Lift and Elevators at Sakumono, or just call them on 0200535515 or send a mail to elevatorsgh@gmail.com for consultations and the best solutions in easy vertical movements. All right. So you're welcome once again to the Hajj edition of Good Morning Ghana, and you understand why I say it's a Hajj edition. Okay. So a brother of mine, I've prayed for years for him to have the fortitude, because his problem was not the financing, but to have the fortitude and the courage, you know, and the will to go and perform a very important pillar as far as his religion is concerned. Thankfully, inshallah, he has been able to do it. So kindly help me welcome Al-Hajj Hussein Isa, former member of Parliament to Kankwe North. Al-Hajj.
Oh, Randy.
Yade.
Very well, Doc. Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers.
Fresh Al-Hajj.
With the grace of Allah, we've been able to achieve one of the important pillars in the life of a Muslim. And for that, I'm grateful to Allah. And I pray that Allah accepts our ibadah. I pray that for all of us who this year were able to make it to Mecca to perform Hajj, Allah accepts our ibadah. And then as we have come back, we're able to continue in the right path and actually get our feet stamped in the deen and do right to humanity as our religion requires us to do.
I hope that you appreciate that once you've taken on the title, a lot is expected of you.
Certainly, that's why I was praying that Allah helps us to stay on the right path.
All right. May Allah help you this morning.
We cannot do it on our own without His intervention. I mean, our seniors who've been there before, we also pray that they are still on the right path. And they have not departed from it.
May Allah help you this morning.
Amen.
Also with me on the show this morning is a senior of Fuseni. When it comes to performing the Hajj, Al-Haji Al-Hassan Sayyid Suhini is a member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency and is a deputy ranking member on the Is it mines?
No.
Okay, it's changed. So it's now lands and
natural
resources committee. Okay, you're actually the ranking member.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
You,
okay. Hajj.
Yes, boss. Thank you. You see, let's not divert attention.
Ranking.
Let's not divert attention from the. Let's not divert attention from the fresh allergy. And it is curious to find out why he delayed it all this while. Because I'm sure that is it the case that you have now come to
I've told you we had been praying
decision
but you see,
that
I like saying,
your ways will be
going to Hajj is a calling actually. So when the time is due and you get a calling, then you embark on
see,
Hajj.
The
so
calling,
it's just
the calling,
till I get a calling, and thankfully this year.
My brother, so how did you predicated on your
how
means.
How did you get a calling this year? How did the calling come about?
It's on your means.
I want to understand. How did the calling come about this year?
It just seems right. Everything falls in place.
God called you in your sleep.
Everything just falls in place, and then you know that it is the right time to embark. I didn't get a telephone call. I didn't get any.
You felt it in the spirit.
It is just the right time.
Okay.
Well, let me congratulate him. Let me congratulate him for a successful Hajj and all those who this year had the opportunity to embark on the Hajj. It is not an easy, exercise, and for one to go through it, it is my prayer that you are, abundantly blessed.
I got a bit terrified when we started getting news about those who
especially
were losing
this
their
year
lives.
because of the weather. Many people lost their lives, and for some Muslims, it's actually a blessing, for one to lose his life in the course of undertaking the pilgrimage. So I don't think that, yes, it's still a loss, and my condolences to the families.
Is the period of the year, for the pilgrimage,
yes.
Is this something which is stipulated in the Quran? That it must be this particular time of the year.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, I was going to suggest
it is based on the lunar calendar. So it doesn't always. It goes round the year.
Calendar.
So
it keeps changing.
It keeps changing. Sometimes it can be at times where the weather is friendlier, and there are times.
So it's a coincidence.
Yes. So it's.
And Randy, I must state.
But see, Randy, another issue that is of concern to me is how the Hajj process have been managed over the years in this country. I think that
you once served on the Hajj
board. I was communications manager for the Hajj board between 2013 and 2016. I think that we can do better. I mean, it is not an institution that we should be seeking to run to make profits. But over the years, it seems there is a certain mindset like that. And even where profits are made, you will expect that those profits are invested in progressive Muslim causes, but I don't see that happening. And the price, especially for last year and this year, is just prohibitive. I think that my brother Hussein will agree with me. It does not make it, accessible to majority of our Muslim folks who especially have the desire to undertake this exercise. Yes, we know that it's a calling, but if you are given the responsibility to make it easy for people who are called to undertake the pilgrimage, you do not unnecessarily, make the process cumbersome and expensive. I mean, how do you expect people to pay? Is it 75,000 Ghana cedis? Yes, 75,000 Ghana cedis, 750 million old cedis to undertake this Hajj pilgrimage. And in the sub-region, Randy, Ghana is the most expensive. I'm telling you.
I think I have information contrary to that.
No, I can just put Ghana is the most expensive in the sub-region, and I think that it is unacceptable. Randy, the exercise was left at a cost of $3,450 in 2016. $3,450. Now look at even the exchange rate alone.
the exchange rate, if you are going to charge in cedis, in my view, should be enough to cater for the change in prices, either airfare prices or accommodation prices in Medina and Mecca. But to have it doubled within the period in the manner that it has been doubled,
it is now about
$6,000.
Are you suggesting that the dollar value itself has gone up?
Yes, the dollar value has gone up by twice.
It's not just an issue of exchange rate.
It's not just an issue of exchange. That's the point I'm making. It was 3,450, US dollars in 2016.
And now it's about 4,000.
And now it's about 6,000.
No, it's about 4,500. I gather.
No, it's about 70. But the 75,000 Ghana cedis is actually, if you like, a negotiated amount. Because if you convert the dollar figure, it's actually more than 75,000 Ghana cedis. The amount that was paid is about $6,000. So it is just that they announced the 75,000 Ghana cedis when the exchange rate, went haywire again. And so they decided to still maintain the 75,000 Ghana cedis. But the dollar, price, it's about $6,000. And so you are not just having the issue of exchange rate to deal with, but you are hit twice, exchange rate and a double increment. I think that those who are in charge should do something about it. And Randy, people are around the operations of the Hajj, and they see the wealth, the sudden wealth that people who are responsible for these operations are, pushing just by virtue of working in this area. Okay, and so it becomes difficult.
A couple of our viewers say $6,000.
It's $6,000.
Muslim viewers from Tamale.
It's about $6,000. In fact, he himself just did the mathematics and he realized that it's $6,000.
No, wait.
Wait. Because I think that especially Randy, I mean, with all the sincerity I can gather, Randy, it is not political, but I find it very unacceptable that the vice president, who promised to represent Muslim interest, have not had anything to say about this, development since, the price changes began. In fact, I find it very shameful that since the price hiked from 3,400 to about 6,000, he has not even gone like he used to do to see off pilgrims when the first flight was about to take off. It's like he has disengaged. He has shut his eyes to what is happening there. And you see, it is about the sincerity that people must come to the job with. If it was one of your points that you campaigned on, which you are still campaigning on, it is important that you come with a certain level of sincerity. I mean, President Mahama, who wasn't even a Muslim, ensured that the operations of Hajj was sanitized. I was a young reporter before 2009. And as a Muslim reporter, Randy, it used to be very embarrassing to be sent to cover Hajj operations. I'm sure you recall how during Hajj operations, the civil aviation road became an eyesore.
Yeah.
People used to camp in the open.
In fact, even hang their
wash, women. In fact, to even perform ablution, 2 or 3 women will have to hold a wall or a tree.
Because I was at a dentist, so I used that.
Yes, and that road during Hajj period was avoided by many motorists because it was always jam-packed because human beings were all over that place. We didn't have anything like a camp. But when he became vice president, he was tasked with that responsibility of ensuring that the operations were sanitized. And that is how come we had the first Hajj village around the El-Wak Sports Stadium. And when it was affected by an accident, it was relocated to the new place. He went further as president to ensure that we now have flights taking off from Tamale, the Tamale International Airport. so that the pressure in Accra is even reduced. So these days you have about 5 flights that will take off from Tamale before the operations return to Accra. And I worked there, so I know that there was actually a special dispensation between the committee, the board, the Hajj board, and the Bank of Ghana and the presidency that ensured easy access of foreign currency. So and this was made possible by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And I'm saying that, look, it is about the sincerity that people must come to the job with. And so if you had somebody who went to Muslims and said that, I am your brother, I am Muslim, so empower me so I can do more for you. And as a result, this man, John Mahama, was put aside. And then you take that office and you still campaign on that. You still seek elevation and promotion from that. And an issue like this affects Muslims and you don't even speak about it. I think it is disrespectful, to say the least, with all due respect, to the Muslim Ummah. And I think that, Husseini, you guys must do something about this Hajj fair. It is just not right. 75,000 Ghana cedis and above. It's not just right.
All right. Yes. Yes, sir.
This is
yes, Alaji, sorry.
Precious Alaji.
Doc, the Hajj operations, I admittedly have not been involved in Hajj operations in the past, but by the grace of God, I got opportunity to experience it firsthand this year. What I can say is that from the experiences of those who have been involved over the years, at least from 2017, they attest to the fact that year in, year out, the operations are getting better. And it's getting better because perhaps we are getting better at it. But these are huge operations, no matter how you look at it. This year, there were in excess of 4,200 official pilgrims, given that some of our brothers also want to, because they have tourist visas, also want to go to Hajj around the same time and take advantage of the arrangements that the Hajj board has put in place. There were more people in there. This year in particular, the weather was extreme. So if you were not with the Hajj board, then you were facing peculiar difficulties, and it resulted in some of the fatalities that were recorded. The Hajj operations itself, it's moved on over time. But I can also tell you that last year, the amount that was charged pilgrims was still 75,000, and that was maintained. The fact that it was maintained, given the movement in exchange rate over the year. Last year, it was about maybe 12, 13 to $1. And the exchange rate moved to 15 at the time we were living. And I can't reconcile why somebody will want to pay $6,000 when you can pay 75,000 cedis for the same service. So I am still staying at 75,000 cedis at an exchange rate of 15, which comes to about $5,000. And then the Hajj fees is moved from what Alaji is saying, 3,400 at the time you were in office, 2016, to 5,000. Given that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia itself has a lot of changes within its system. Its tax system is changed. Things that they didn't used to charge VAT on or service taxes, now they are. I mean, if you recollect that also in the past, when government subsidized Hajj fees, there were legacy debts to be dealt with year in, year out. And every year it affected the ensuing year's operations. And this time, if we are pushing the whole cost onto the pilgrims, I think it's the right thing to do, rather than build up the legacy debts again and have to face and go look for money elsewhere, given the changes within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia itself. Ideally, government will want to subsidize, government will want to make it possible for every Muslim willing and able to undertake this pilgrimage to be able to do that. Unfortunately, we have to deal with the math. And given what I saw this year, given my experience that I went through from Mina to Arafat to Muzdalifah to Jamarat, I think that the Hajj board has done a yeoman's job this year. I think that given whatever transpired, it can always get better. I'm looking forward to some better operations last year. But from where we have come from, where we've gotten to, the pilgrims, where they stayed in Medina, where they stayed in Mecca, the operations within Mina, which are the salient and very, very important times within the Hajj calendar, I think that the Hajj board has done some good job. Ideally, we will want to make it
very affordable for everybody to go. Unfortunately, the conditions and the cost on the ground are already. Look, there are competing countries wanting to have the best of places within Medina and Mecca. Sometimes even the distance from where your hotel to the Haram mosques, either in Medina or Mecca, are so crucial, given that some people want to actually walk to the mosque. It's all about cost. And given where Ghanaian pilgrims were kept, especially in Medina, where you can just, by the time you just come down your hotel, you are at Haram. Even in Mecca, although the distance was relatively, it wasn't that bad. We could manage. If we want to stay right in Haram, if we want to stay in Hilton in Haram, then you should be ready to pay for it. And given what we got from what we paid, I think that the Hajj board is done a good job over as the years go by.
Ghanaian pilgrims, all of you were at Hilton?
Oh, I said if you want to be in Hilton, then you should be ready to pay for it.
Of course,
people live in Hilton.
Different.
You see, people live in Hilton that you descend into Haram.
I mean, if you were putting Ghanaian pilgrims at Hilton in Haram, I will not be complaining.
I'm saying this because...
But that's not what you are doing.
I am saying this because I have seen videos of other pilgrims from other countries, Australia, Canada, and the likes. Given where they are and given what they paid to go there, it's just, they are getting their money's worth, right? But given what we pay, and Alhaji made a statement that Ghana is the most expensive within the sub-region. In fact, I have information contrary to that, that given what we pay relative to Burkina Faso, relative to Togo, even Nigeria, we are the least, the least expensive one within the sub-region. That's the information I have. Given information
is incorrect, is
right.
wrong.
So given the operations, given what I saw in Saudi, I think that I give the Hajj board thumbs up. I am looking forward to better operations in the coming years. I mean, to enable all willing, able Ghanaian pilgrims undertake this very important task in their life.
The issue of the relevance of the Hajj board has come up again. And every time people use the example of Nigeria, with all the number of Muslims in Nigeria, they don't have a Hajj board. They use their Hajj agents.
You see, in Nigeria, from what I observed, their pilgrimage is organized on state levels. And you know the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia does government to government. So perhaps in Nigeria, also because of the numbers. This year, Ghana had maybe a little over 4,200 pilgrims. Nigeria had in excess of 100,000. So certainly the arrangements that Ghana is going to have with the kingdom relative to what Nigeria is going to have, it's going to be different, right?
But before... Are you saying that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia insists that you must have a Hajj board?
No, but they deal with governments.
Yes.
They deal with governments. And how else can we deal if we don't have a government agency to actually stand instead of coming to deal with?
You can have a government agency,
that's it.
But not a government agency that is directly involved in the issue of
you see,
travels and all that.
Alhaji knows.
The
Ghana
fact that
still has agents. We have agents.
Yes.
And agents deal with the board.
Yes.
And so if you're going on pilgrimage and you deal with the agent takes care of virtually everything.
But I want to understand.
No,
you still don't get my point. I want to understand why we would need a board in the way that our board is structured in terms of the functions it performs. When in other jurisdictions where the numbers are even higher, they don't use a Hajj board in organizing travels and accommodation and feeding and all those things.
Dr. Abe, I can tell you that. However, the agents in Nigeria work. There has to be an interface between the agents and the kingdom.
I don't deny that. That is why I said.
If we have you're
not listening to me. I said a Hajj board or an interface in the way ours is structured. In terms of a board that is involved in the
Nigerian
air flights, accommodation, feeding, and all that. Because in other jurisdictions who also do country to country, it is the responsibility of these agents to go and do those things, and then people go to the agents.
You see, Dr. Randy, the irony is that let me just make this point. The irony is that, look, when you look at airlines, when you look at hotels, when you look at even companies that facilitate the movement of pilgrims on the ground. It's probably the same companies doing for the same countries. The same countries, the same airline, the same airplane that airlifted Ghanaian pilgrims did in Nigeria, did for, I think, Indonesia. And these are Saudi companies incorporated to undertake those. So the differences in the quality of service are not different.
Why do you need a government? Why do you need a government bureaucracy
what I'm
to engage them?
What I'm saying is that even in Nigeria, like we want to say, the agents, just like the Ghanaian agents, but there has to be, and I believe there's an interface between the agents within the states and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Because I don't think that the agents
I'm not saying there shouldn't
be
an interface. All I'm asking is whether we need that interface to be as involving and doing everything like we have in Ghana.
Well, the extent to which this interface is active, I think that it will be unique to the nations and jurisdictions. If somebody wants to be very active in the day-to-day operations relative to somebody who wants to just sit back and allow the agents, I think those are unique characteristics that will differ from nation to nation. Okay. So it's what it is. But I think that from where we are, from what I experienced, it's a yeoman's job. But I'm looking for. I mean, given anything can be better. So we're looking forward to some better. And then I should say that we are grateful to the role that the Vice President played in facilitating and ensuring that we had this successful Hajj this year. And I'm looking forward to him ascending to the throne and making the Hajj operations even better than we have today.
Okay. You know, Randy,
Yes.
I think that you asked some very legitimate questions. Some people have raised similar concerns in the past, and I think it is worth considering those concerns to improve the process.
Of the Hajj board, agents were doing this.
So that's I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. You see, Randy, like Husseini said, the information he has about the Hajj fairs, I cannot blame him for sharing that information, but I just want to assure him that that information he has been given is wrong. In fact, Nigeria was charging $3,500 US. Later, they increased it, and they were faced with stiff opposition from pilgrims. They increased it to about 5,002 or so. You know, but ours is 6,250. In fact, that's the announced
your statement
figure.
in dollars is
6,000.
It's 75,000 cedis.
No, but I'm telling you that 75,000 Ghana cedis was a negotiated price. But the announced price is 6,250.
Are you saying at the point?
You see, that is why you don't know, perhaps because you didn't pay.
Please don't go there. That's a bit unfair.
I like don't go there.
That's unfair.
No, you have more information. So I think that I take a substitute.
I'm sorry about that. But the point is that I am telling you on authority that the announced price, and I know the difference between the announced price in dollars and in cedis. Look, anybody who is
announced price, announced by
listen, the Hajj board. No, they announced 6,250. It is online. You can check it, please. They announced 6,250 US dollars. It's online. You can check it. That's the price they announced.
The deadline for payment was 31st March.
31st March, exactly. They announced $6,250. And I'm telling you that Nigeria, even after the increase, was their price was about 5,200. And even that, they faced stiff opposition. Burkina Faso, is lower. I was just trying to get the exact amount, but I know it is lower. Now, these are countries that you can even say are farther, from Mecca than Ghana is. And again, they're far, I mean, if they're further, they take a long travel time to get to Mecca. Time. Paid more. It's the same service and the same vendors that we all use. So how come our price, and we are all paying the same taxes that have changed. So how come our price is that high? That's the point I am making. Okay. But in other countries, like you said, like in Nigeria, I'm getting the fact that the agents actually are supervised and regulated by the national body. The national body does not go into contract with, say, airlines or with accommodation vendors or food vendors. It is the agents who do that, but under strict guidance and response, oversight. provided by the national, body, because it is the national body that will deal with the Saudi authorities to secure the visas for the Hajj purposes and the permits to access Haram and Mina. It is the national body that can deal with the Saudi embassy to secure that for pilgrims. So what they use that authority and that privilege to regulate the agents to do that, and also to ensure that the agents do not rip off, prospective pilgrims. So it is something that we can also emulate, in future. And that, I am sure, will come up for scrutiny when the time comes. But the current arrangement has served us well. It is an improvement over what existed before 2009. And anyone will agree with it. It's an improvement. And that improvement began in 2009. We can further make improvements. Unfortunately, personally, the improvement I was expecting to see, because a Muslim brother promised to make it his priority, I haven't seen, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah, contrary to that, those who have been involved in those who have been going to Mecca year in, year out, attest to the fact that the operations are getting better. Ghanaian pilgrims are getting better services.
I was part of the body every year. That's why we are told.
See, I've just come back.
You, the managers who are in charge, every year you are told by people who are going that.
And also, Dr. Abe,
but
the point has to be made that Nigeria has a Hajj commission that organizes everything, just like the Hajj board, from accommodation to feeding to land transportation to everything, just like the Ghana Hajj board. So there are no differences. There are no differences. I am getting this from a very authentic source, somebody who lives in Abuja, who is watching this program.
All right. Okay. So, we're told that something happened in Parliament yesterday with respect to committees. What is it all about? New committees? What is it about? What is it supposed to do?
Dr. I think you should start by congratulating.
And what has changed? I've done that already. And what has changed?
Randy, what has changed is our new standing orders. It's our standing orders. It is new. And the standing orders required that our committees were restructured and new committees introduced. It also required that the numbers of MPs who serve on committees were reduced. These are all requirements of the new standing orders that we have been working with since, I think, the start of last Parliament, or is it this Parliament? We passed it in the last sitting. So that is what the new standing orders requires. And so leadership, in the view of many, have actually delayed, because the new standing orders, the implementation of the new standing orders have faced some difficulties because of the inability of leadership to constitute the new committees to reflect the new standing orders. So I'll give you an example. Under the new standing orders, you no longer have a committee like Mines and Energy. What you have is lands and natural resources. And this was addressing an issue in the past where the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources reported to two committees of Parliament. So if it had to do with mining, the oversight for mining fell under Mines and Energy. And so people used to come to me sometimes to complain about how the minority in Parliament was not addressing the issues of Galamsey. And then they say, I hear you are on the Lands and Forestry Committee. But the ministry is Lands and Natural Resources. And so the mining fell under Mines and Energy. Now, this and many other reasons are why the framers of the new standing orders decided that then let us provide Lands and Natural Resources Committee to reflect the existing ministry, Lands and Natural Resources. So everything under Lands and Natural Resources will now be under the purview of Lands and Natural Resources. I'm just telling you the difficulty we face before the constitution of these new committees. So until this was passed, any issue involving mining was now referred to joint committees. So you had the Ada Songo Salt, a petition from people who are aggrieved to Parliament. The Speaker refers it because operations of the House is now governed by the new standing orders. But you didn't have new committees. So you will use the new standing orders to do the referral. And you couldn't do it to the Mines and Energy Committee when you have Lands and Forestry Committee. So because we are masters of our own rules, the thinking of the House was that then refer it to the two committees. But you see, when you do that, responsibility becomes a problem. Who to hold responsible when things go wrong become a problem. And so the thinking of the House has always been that, look, let's reconstitute the committees to reflect the new standing orders for us to proceed. So eventually that happened.
So this is my question.
Yeah.
Does it then mean that per the new standing orders, the committees to be constituted by Parliament with respect to oversight of the executive will be based on the kind of architecture that the executive creates? Because by these standing orders, the executive is not under obligation to continue setting up ministries on the basis of the nomenclature that has been created. Same way, previously, what Parliament had actually was responsive to what existed. The executive decides to change its ministries, either add some or put some together or change some and all that. And that created a problem with the committees and you having to do joint and all that. So in view of this experience, as the new standing orders, have they been put in a way where you respond to what the executive creates? So that if tomorrow the executive decides to create a ministry of aviation and arts and gives you a reason why it should be so, you then would have to correspondingly get a committee in Parliament to deal with that.
No, I think that it will depend on how enduring over time such a change is. Because if you recall, the old standing orders was actually based on the government architecture at the time. So that's how come you had Mines and Energy. Because in that era, the ministry was Mines and Energy Ministry. Yes. Now, over the years, and I think that is since 1992, we have had Energy standalone and Mines under the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. So you will say that if we have practiced it for maybe two different governments, then it makes sense to begin to think that this is going to, or this has become enduring. And so if you are reflecting, if you are forming committees, you will form committees to reflect the new change in the executive. And so there are certain ministries that over the period have been consistent with the responsibilities that they are given and the names that they are given. And so you see it reflect in the committees. So for example, the aviation example you gave, Transport Committee is still intact. And Transport Committee has always handled these sectors that are under the Transport Ministry, no matter the name. In fact, even when we had the Aviation Ministry standalone from Transport, it still reported to the Transport Committee in Parliament. So it may not matter how much the executive tweak it, but the responsibility of the committee will still be to oversee some of these agencies that are related to the nomenclature that has been created as a committee.
My question really was that if the executive were to change and combine maybe some ministries to the extent that we would have the lands and natural resources situation, where you would have a particular ministry's oversight
overlapping.
Yes, transcending a particular committee. Yes. What I want to find out is that because this is supposed to cure something, so has the new standing order been structured in a way that once that occurs, you would also change the committee in the House to reflect
like I'm
that
saying,
change?
Like the point I'm making is that if that happens in one government cycle,
you will leave it.
It may not be enough to quickly change the standing orders, but if it happens over time, if it endures over time, then it may become necessary to make another change to reflect the situation. Yes.
But
so that's what happened.
Okay, I'm told that there were MPs who also had some reservations about the new structure.
Oh yes. They always do. I mean, yes, you were congratulating me earlier, and I'm very grateful for the elevation to be ranking member on Lands and Natural Resources Committee. I wish to thank the leadership of our party, especially His Excellency President John Mahama, the chairman, the general secretary, and the minority leader and the entire leadership, and especially my colleagues for their confidence reposed in me. I hope and pray that I will enjoy their support to live up to expectation. But I am not happy because
with what?
My second committee is House Committee. Because every member is supposed to serve in at least 2 committees. My second committee, I used to be on Appointment Committee. Wait. Yes, I used to be on Appointments Committee. I'm no longer on Appointments Committee. You understand? And I'm now on Housekeeping Committee, and everybody knows. I see how he laughs.
What is housekeeping?
It's about sanitation. I mean, welfare of offices and those things in Parliament. Yes. I mean, but in fact, my information is that the last time they met, Methuselah was still alive. But you see, that's the point. But you see, these are the things that you will always have when committees are formed.
But are you not consulted before you are placed on a committee?
Hardly do consultations take place. I mean, when I was put on the Appointments Committee and the Lands and Natural Resources Committee in the first Parliament, I mean the 7th Parliament, that was my first year. I wasn't consulted. I was just told. I was just informed. So in some cases,
on the basis of your CV?
Yes, on the basis of your CV, yes. In some cases, you can be consulted, especially with the seniors and the regional caucus leaders. They are usually consulted and discussions had as to how to ensure that there's a certain balance. But at the end of the day, the truth is that leadership is never able to satisfy everybody. Members always will wish that they are on one committee or the other. And what I see sometimes leadership, doing, the past leadership and this current leadership, is to try to strike a certain balance where at least every member is given some reputable committee and then another one that he can manage with. But there are always issues about how to. But you see, I mean, I was told one thing in the first time I was in Parliament, and I thank Honorable Collins Dowda for that advice because he gave me that advice. It's a cheap proverb. He said, "There's no big stool. There's only a big king."
Okay, so it's how you.
It's how you make it. I mean, I think that every committee has the potential to be a very respectable committee.
So make the House Committee a nation committee.
I'm not the ranking, unfortunately. And these things usually.
Who's the ranking?
I don't recall. These things usually are championed and led mostly by the chairman of the committee and the ranking. And really, that's another beautiful thing that has happened with this new standing orders. And I must congratulate the Speaker of Parliament for spearheading it. There are many more committees now that are chaired by the minority.
Okay.
We always have seen how committees that are chaired by minority in Parliament have lived up to expectation, like the Public Accounts Committee, even the Appointments Committee, because it's jointly chaired. You tend to have, some, level of. Oh, the first deputy speaker, sorry, but you have the minority leader as ranking, so that's the point. But you have the Public Accounts Committee, and I think which other committee is chaired by the minority?
Subsidiary legislation.
Subsidiary legislation, exactly. I mean, you tend to see that there's some shared responsibility when things go right or go wrong with those committees.
One that didn't make sense appears to have been rectified by the new standing orders.
Which one?
Government assurances.
Government assurance.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about oversight, if you look at the reasons why the minority will chair public accounts and chair subsidiary legislation, it didn't make sense that government assurances was chaired by her. But it appears that that's
and
what.
Samuel Okujeto is sharing that.
I mean, it's so obvious. You know what? It's so obvious that Parliament itself recognizes him as the one who can really do that
Whole
job.
government yeah. So I think that it's I am expecting that in the coming days, many people who are in these committees that they have been put in will justify.
There was something
and make
when the discussion about the standing committees, when you were preparing it, I remember on this show we had a discussion, and there were a couple of things. I hope that our memory will be spot on.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to find out if it happened. Now, because of the hang parliament and the possibility that even this hang parliament could have changed at any point in time, there was this thing about some particular committees that should be chaired by the party that has the executive and not necessarily the majority. So government business.
Our standing orders have taken care of that.
So which are these committees?
I can't immediately recall, but I know we now have the economy committee, we have the government business committee, we have finance separately. So there are many more committees now, and the issue you have raised has been addressed in our standing orders, where it is now clearly stated that the party in government that necessarily does not form majority in parliament. The responsibilities that it will have and the committees that it will have oversight, it will provide oversight for, have all now been categorically stated in our standing order. So I think that this hang parliament and the fact that this hang parliament, you know, took charge of the new standing orders to some extent have helped to shape the workings of the House even into the future in such a way that, I mean, the if you like, imbalances that we saw as a result of either government having more members or lacking numbers will be curtailed and managed better.
Dr. Abi, I think that it was welcoming and refreshing yesterday when I got the news that new committees have been constituted. I think that it's the last step to actually operationalize the new standing orders, because the last one, I think, was operational in 2010. And Parliament, like Malaji said, is a master of its own rules. So they decide on how they operate and all of that. But from my experience in the 7th Parliament, in fact, in the dying embers of the 7th Parliament, we tried to operationalize this particular standing orders. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that. Thankfully, the 8th Parliament has been able to do that. And I think that it's what to expect. I'm looking through the committees. Hitherto, a committee like the Finance Committee encompassed the Budget Committee, the Economic Development Committee, and Finance itself. And you realize that the chunk of documents or work that was done in Parliament relied on the Finance Committee, and it was quite a bit. Thankfully, with the separation of the Finance, Economic Development, and Budget, I think that it's progressive. I think that is going to help the work of Parliament. At the time, the size of the Finance Committee, I recollect, was like 25 members, and even the numbers alone were sometimes a hindrance, because when you needed to have a quorum, you needed to have a certain number of people belong to other committees who were not available. It was quite challenging. And one other thing that I noticed about the new arrangements in Parliament is the size of the committees themselves, 15, 17, and I think it's progressive. And people like Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Honorable Mutaka, Honorable Adjoa Safo, Speaker Michael Quay, former Speaker, and even the current Speaker, he was the father of the House in the 7th Parliament, Honorable Joe Osewu, so they have played key role in bringing Parliament to where Parliament is today. And I think that we should celebrate those people, because I always believe that in our governance architecture, one of the weakest link within the three arms of government is Parliament. And the day Parliament wakes up, the day Parliament plays its role, correct, I mean, in a way that the Constitution envisaged Parliament to play, that day Ghana will wake up and a lot of things will be put right. The new committees that I'm seeing, Ethics Committee, Petitions, these are all responsive to the work that Parliament has to do. Because today, if a Ghanaian has to, or an ordinary Ghanaian has to send a petition to Parliament, I'm sure that you have to grapple with where or who to go and see. But now that there is a committee in Parliament that is actually taxed with the job of receiving petitions. It is going to open the gateway for Ghanaians to know that, look, if I have an issue and if I want Parliament to respond to a specific issue, this is where, and this is the person to whom I have to address my concerns. A committee like Ways and Means, I am just hoping that it is modeled and allowed to work like we have those Ways and Means Committee in other jurisdictions. It is exciting. You recollect when Nancy Pelosi visited Parliament in the 7th Parliament. There was this black legislator. He died not too long ago. I have forgotten his name. I mean, he had chaired the Ways and Means Committee for a long time in the U.S. Congress. And given his work, I mean, when you read about his achievements and all of that. But the Ways and Means is a very, and given its name, I mean, you might think that it's some, but it's a very, very important committee. I mean, in charge of fiscal policy and tariffs and taxes, and I think that is very strategic. I just hope and pray that the spirit with which this has been built. And I have to also mention one particular committee, the Budget Committee. Honorable H.A. Mensah for a long time has been fighting for a standing budget committee because, look, the budgetary process itself is one of the most important things Parliament does every year. Budgets come in, let's say, first week in November. Parliament has just a couple of weeks to go through all the stages to approve before Parliament actually rises to go on Christmas break. And within that time in Parliament, there is running around, I mean, the minister reads the budget, there's a post-budget workshop, the next week there's debate, and then by the time debate is finished, the estimates are coming in. But if there's a standing committee that actually gets involved in the budgetary process, right from maybe when the ministry starts in March until its approval, I think that the actual aim that we want for our budgets, because now and in the last couple of years, look, budgets are read, and as to whether the intention and the spirit and whatever we intended to do in our budget is what we do. But you come to committees, and I will say my experience with the Finance Committee. You come there last year, what was approved for you, and what was disbursed? How did you use it? Within a space of some 1 hour, because there's so many agencies that a committee has to see, within the space of about a week or so. And for us to have a standing budget committee, I think it's in the right direction. A committee like the Economic Development that will look into a long-term planning for this country, such that, yes, I agree with His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that, look, party manifestos are very important in our body politic, yes, because it tells the document by which the parties campaign to come to power, and so they should be held responsible. But we still need some level of long-term planning as a nation. And if we have a committee in Parliament that will have an oversight, the long-term planning of this nation, I think it's the right direction. And I think that the leadership in Parliament on the MPs will have to be celebrated. At least not every news from Parliament is bad news. I can agree that in the last couple of days, MPs have not been too popular. But for this particular one, and for my experience, I think that the Parliament has done a good job. I think they have to be celebrated. We have to celebrate Parliament for being able to take this very important step to make Parliament more responsive to the people, and for Parliament to change with the time and not stay in the old cast and do things the old way. And you asked the question whether with the change of government architecture, some of these things will have to change. I think that I agree with that Alhaji Suhuyini said, that maybe in a longer term view will be taken. But by and large, I don't see anything wrong with us having joint committees when we need to. To get things going. And I think that Parliament as a master of its own and a determinant of how Parliament operates, I think in this instance.
Okay, I'll just provide my minority deputy leader just sent me the list of the committees that we are chairing, the minorities chairing. You have the Budget Committee, the Economic Committee, the Works and Housing Committee, and the Assurance Committee, plus Public Accounts Committee.
Why Works and Housing?
I don't know the reason behind it, but there were a number of committees that were proposed also for us to chair. For example, the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, I do know that the proposal initially was for the minority to chair it.
Why?
And I think it's also about the numbers in Parliament. I think it also has to do with the numbers in Parliament. And so there's that equal sharing, representation, near equal representation.
Let me understand something.
You know,
is it to suggest that?
But I'll just tell you, I mean, the Constitution, I remember in the conversation, I heard that the Constitution didn't allow for the party that is not in government to chair certain certain committees. For example, the lands and resources of Ghana are vested in the president. And so you cannot have the president working in Parliament through, a chair that doesn't come from his party. So all of these things.
What I want to understand is that if tomorrow,
sharing of the committees, yes,
if we have a Parliament with a clear majority, will the minority still chair committees like Works and Housing?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, because I can understand government. I can understand government assurance. Yes. I can understand public accounts.
Yes.
I can understand subsidiary legislation. Yes. But for the ones that have ministerial oversight,
I'm not too
sure.
So
if there's a clear majority, Parliament is a master of its own game.
But you see, the reality is that even when we had 169 against 106, this standing orders, when they tried to implement it, we couldn't get it through. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
It's the Parliament that has allowed this to pass.
In Parliament, a lot of the decisions,
that has allowed this to pass. Otherwise, where the government has the majority, things like this.
So let's look at one of such decisions that angered a lot of Ghanaians over the weekend.
I was hoping you would go
there. Sweeney.
I was hoping you would go there.
Sweeney. Yes. Okay, I was going to ask a question, but it will be deemed to be
inappropriate.
It will be deemed to be perhaps insulting. With your new committees, I don't know which one I'll be held before.
There's still the privileges committee.
So let me just try. So there's a controversial legislative instrument seeking to amend portions of the Road Traffic Regulations 2012 has been withdrawn in Parliament. The Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Martina James Akosa, withdrew the LI on behalf of the Transport Minister, citing public and stakeholder concerns. He said, quote, the withdrawal became necessary based on extensive engagement with leadership. Mr. Speaker, I would like to move that the Road Traffic Amendment 2024, which was laid on Friday, June 14, be withdrawn. It is so withdrawn. And the ministry had previously laid the LI before Parliament to amend portions of the Road Traffic Regulations 2012. If passed, it will grant members of Parliament and ministers of state privileges typically reserved for emergency and specialized vehicles. Specifically, the amendment to Regulation 74 of LI 2180 would allow sirens or bells to be fitted as warning appliances on certain vehicles, including those owned by Supreme Court justices. It's not Supreme Court justices, justices of the superior courts. Ministers of state. However, the LI faced opposition from a public and a minority in Parliament, who issued a press statement urging the Transport Minister to withdraw the LI before it matured in 21 days. The minority also pledged to vote against the LI if it reached the chamber. Quote, we have instructed all our members on the committee to strongly oppose it at the committee level. We've also directed all 137 NDC MPs to vote and block against the LI when it's brought to the floor. The minority further urged the government to focus on addressing critical issues facing Ghana, such as high cost of living, food inflation, unemployment, high fuel costs, the depreciation of cedi, and a high tax regime that is driving businesses to relocate to neighboring West African countries. How did this even happen in the first place?
You know, Randy, I was earlier this morning engaged in a conversation on another platform before I came here. And the point I made, which I'll repeat here, is that as much as we have grown, or we are growing in our democracy, there's still a very high level of, there's still a very low level of education when it comes to the functions of our different arms of government and the responsibilities each are tasked with, and how they go about executing those responsibilities. The education in that area is very low. And so it allows for, it does not allow for clarity in terms of who to hold responsible when things go wrong. And I can forgive people for the way they lump everybody together, especially every politician together, when matters of this nature come up. But it is important that we all take our time to listen and learn, to understand how the processes work. For example, when it comes to an LI, my brother here knows that Parliament, strictly speaking, has very little to do with it. Members of Parliament have very little to do with it. It is like a cooking pot. I'll put it that way. It's like a cooking pot that has very little to do with the ingredients that are used to cook a meal. You know, so that is the illustration I want to give. With an LI, a CI, I mean, the executive brings it, and it is supposed to be laid, and after a number of days, it is law. That's why I call Parliament in such cases as a cooking pot. And so the pot really has little impact on the ingredients that you use to cook whatever meal that you want to cook. So the LI came based on the information that I have. And when these LIs come and the CIs come, mostly once the paper is laid, it's referred to the necessary committee. It is not usually something that all members are consulted on or are given notice of to make their contributions on. So it is referred to the committee. This LI came, it was referred to the necessary committee. And my information, and these are facts, is that when the minister brought the LI, it is over time, maybe before I come to the facts, it is over time that Parliament decided that we should have something we call pre-laying. And this is not really, known to the Constitution. But it is just through our own arrangements that we decided that when an LI or CI comes again from the executive, we would like to have a pre-laying process where members of the responsible committee will engage with whoever is bringing the LI or the CI to understand and possibly make contributions before the instrument is laid. Because once the instrument is laid, members of Parliament have no opportunity to change anything in it.
Unless with a two-third majority.
Unless with a two-third majority. So this process of pre-laying was to allow members of Parliament to make suggestions to the executive so that the executive can go back and input their suggestions, or the executive can choose to ignore those inputs and still go ahead to lay. That's, I like that. Yes, they can decide to ignore it and still lay, and they haven't broken a law. That's what I'm saying. It's important that we understand the processes and the responsibilities.
Like Dr. Sribo,
like in the case of the Electoral Commission. Yeah,
it says that what Parliament said was just advice.
Yes, they can take it or
that's what he told me.
Exactly, and he's right. I mean, according to the law, they are right. So sometimes when you see us being buga, it's because we know that maybe if you are going to go that way, they may beat you. Then you say, okay, we won't allow you to lay. Like the EC matter. Parliament, and I commend the former majority leader for this, came together, and under his leadership, he decided that, look, we are not, this is also our port. I mean, we are the port, and we will refuse to cook. Understand?
Fortunately, we also got a few majority.
Yes, we got majority.
The majority leader.
That's what I'm saying. The majority. That's why I'm commending him for that. He championed it and said, well, if that is the case, if you won't take our advice, then we won't provide you the platform to lay it because you don't have the audience in the house.
In fact, you send them a cease and desist letter.
So in order not for me to divert, the point is that when this one was brought, understand that the necessary, the responsible committee was met. And the information I have is
that's subsidiary legislation.
The subsidiary legislation. The information I have is that it came with a long list of people who were entitled to use sirens and to drive without speed limits. A long list, excluding members of Parliament. And that everyone was on it.
So
ministers.
So what they brought,
ministers, deputy ministers,
yes. So
judges,
what they brought,
yes,
had the vice president.
The vice president.
Because the original one is just president.
President, yes.
Had the vice president, the chief justice, the speaker of Parliament,
yes,
superior court judges. So from high courts to the Supreme Court,
yes.
Ministers,
yes.
Deputy ministers,
yes. So
they didn't have MPs.
Exactly.
That's nice to know.
No, exactly.
That's good to know.
No, so the point is
what government brought, the LI, was for us to grant deputy ministers, High Court judges, Appeal Court judges, Supreme Court judges, the Speaker, CJ, and Vice President, in addition to the President and ambulances and the security agencies.
So that was a long list without
for them to now be able to fix sirens or bells and also be exempted
from
all speed limits.
So that was what government brought. That's what government brought. So I hear at the committee, you know, some of the members of the committee, and this one is both sides, said that, but why are you doing all of this for these people and leaving out MPs when we are supposed to also be another arm of government?
Why will you add ministers?
How will you add ministers and deputy ministers? Because actually 50%, I mean more than 50%, is that it? Or 50% of ministers and deputy ministers are supposed to be members of parliament. So is it the case that because you get the opportunity to become a minister or a deputy minister, you become a superior member of parliament? You know, so they made that argument at the committee level that, I mean, if this is what you, the government, you are thinking of doing,
why exclude us?
Why exclude us? So that point was made at the committee, and the committee is usually made of less than 30 members, I would say, from both sides, less than 30 members. So this proposal was made, and then the minister, I understand, you know, like I said, the reason for introducing pre-laying was for suggestions to be made. And so this suggestion was made, and the minister incorporated, added MPs, just MPs. And then, you know, the thing was laid. And like I explained earlier, some of these things, they are restricted to these small committees. Members are not, their views and opinions are not ours. So to be honest with you, Randy, when
it's not like a caucus opinion.
It's not a caucus opinion.
Whether it's majority or minority.
No, it's not. Okay. In fact, when members' attention was drawn to this, I can tell you on authority that majority of MPs were disappointed that people even considered that, you know, MPs and ministers and deputy ministers should be allowed by law to install these things in their cars.
In fact, to be exempted
from speed limits. In fact, majority.
Why must a minister be exempted from speed limits?
I'm being honest.
Why must a deputy minister be exempted from speed limits?
Majority.
Why must be a judge exempted from speed limits?
A majority of members were appalled. Majority of members were appalled. And so that is what culminated even in the press statement that came out from the minority leader, stating the position of the majority of minority members. Can I put it that way? Majority of the minority members.
Because there were
it was reflecting
who were in support of this.
That's what I said. At the committee level.
Some majority.
At the committee level.
In fact,
it is usually less than 30 members.
Akubi granted an interview where he said that he even asked them to add doctors. And the issue,
doctors.
Yes, because
but they also
because his point was that
essential service.
His point was that.
How about the cleaner at the hospital?
No, I'm coming. The point he made was
those
that
are the issues.
If the ambulance is exempted, in order to facilitate the easy passage of the person who requires medical attention,
and the doctor,
and the person gets to the theater,
and the doctor
who must attend to the person is caught up in traffic. What will be the point? And he says that at the committee level, so that's him speaking. He says at the committee level, they said, how will you be able to determine a doctor who's on call?
Yes. But it's the same thing. How do you determine a politician who is on duty?
Or who even has an emergency?
I mean, those are the things.
How do you determine that a deputy minister has an emergency or a minister has an emergency?
So Randy,
or High Court judge has an emergency?
My conclusion on this is that, you see, when these issues come up, I understand the emotions. But it is important that we take our time to understand the processes and the procedures, and then challenge it on the basis of logic and not just raw emotions. Because the fact is that you may even be angry with someone who is sharing the same opinion as you.
Yeah, but the
fact that I'm a member of parliament does not mean.
For what we know,
yes,
the thing went to parliament.
Yes,
and parliament does not have a problem with the laying of it in parliament.
That's why I'm telling you that the processes, Randy, that's why I said there's a low level of education on the processes that each
we don't have a problem. We expect that, listen.
Absolutely.
We expect that when the appointments committee...
And I appreciate, Randy, it's not like I'm criticizing the uproar. I appreciate that uproar. In fact, I'm one of the people who have always said that I think that Ghana is doing better because of the noise we make. When you compare us to other, neighboring countries, I like the fact that people criticize, loudly, because it puts duty bearers, on their toes to respond to those public outbursts. And when we get so silent and too quiet, that's why some of us get worried and criticize, agencies and institutions that used to be very vociferous in demanding good governance.
Because I'm sure,
and why they are quiet.
I'm sure that if the airline, for
better.
example, had added the vice president, the speaker,
that would have been end of story.
Nobody would have even complained.
And the minister brought to Parliament.
What the minister brought included ministers
and deputy ministers.
Deputy ministers. Yes. And judges of the Superior Court. So High Court judges, Appeal Court judges, and Supreme Court judges.
MPs rank about the same as High Court.
So I'm saying, so that is why you have MPs. But for many Ghanaians, the point is that,
that's the case. Why do you
look, all this thing is pretty obvious that people want a way out of the excruciating traffic.
Exactly.
You see,
that's
so
people think
if we have elected
you to solve the problem,
to go and solve the problem, you want
for a way out,
so that you don't experience what we experience. That is where the outrage is from.
Obviously.
So if you don't experience it, how will you
in fact,
go and take a decision to resolve it fast?
There's an existing arrangement. I don't know if it is law, but there's an existing arrangement. When members of parliament, ministers of states, and deputy ministers, when they have an emergency, they can arrange for a dispatch escort. You just have to call.
Because you have a parliamentary,
we have a police
station
there.
In
fact, so I don't know why you would want to install it in your car so you can use it at will.
Even the vice president, the speaker, the CJ, they've been provided with their dispatch and police whatever. They have it. We all know.
Yeah.
So what really is the point?
The point.
In putting it.
What really is the point?
You see, Randy,
it was not well thought.
I am an unapologetic supporter of Parliament of Ghana. But in this instance, just like a moment ago, I praised Parliament for responding to the times. I think that Parliament got it wrong. They didn't feel the temperature of the people, and it's dangerous for democracy. Like you're saying, for a body and for people who have been elected to help solve our problems, they are looking for an easy way out. Then why won't all 30 million Ghanaians be given sirens? So we all blow sirens on the road.
What about
when I was a member of Parliament,
I
never for any day needed the installation of siren in my car. I never did.
So Fuzeni,
but maybe my situation was unique because of where I lived and why.
Fuzeni, why will
situation is not unique.
Why will government?
I've never used
Fuzeni,
it.
why will government think that ministers and deputy ministers and judges from High Court up until Supreme Court must be legalized to fix sirens and be exempted from speed limits?
So those are different arms of government, right? To start with, I can rationalize, and I am not too privy to what went into that decision to put that class of Article 71 office holders.
I'm just saying that it is pretty obvious that it's pretty obvious that it's the inclusion of those people that made the MPs. Yes, that MPs think that why do you leave the
there are three arms of government, and the three arms are supposed, as we're taught in school, to operate at the same level. None is.
So why do you cater for the judiciary and the executive?
Judges can use it, the executive can use it, but the legislature can't use it. That was the problem.
I think that's a valid point. That's a valid point because I can't really see how I can put a High Court judge above a member of Parliament. The only difference is that they are probably career people, and a member of Parliament is elected, and I have to go to the people every 4 years to renew their mandate. So those are.
So you put a deputy minister above an MP.
Yeah. But even when it comes to salary, skills, the deputy minister is above the.
A deputy minister non-MP.
No,
maybe no. You are talking about deputy minister MP. That's different. But there are deputy ministers who are not MPs.
Yeah, so they take lower.
They take lower than MPs. That I have to clarify. But this whole thing, then again, I mean, MPs have made a point that whenever there are uproars or brouhahas like this, the legislator is a very easy target. Easy target. Nobody's making noise about the the minister
and deputy
or the
ministers,
deputy minister,
or the High
even
Court
the
judge.
judges.
Yeah.
But it's
Nobody's
understandable.
Nobody's making noise about that. But you see, the difference is that
because we elect you.
The difference is that
so we have a direct,
and you are to represent
You see,
our interests. So when you go and you are hobnobbing with those we elected you to protect
the
us.
difference is that
we have the right to
the
be
minister
upset.
or deputy minister serves at the convenience of the president.
Yeah.
The High Court judge actually comes to the system. Nobody holds them responsible once they are doing their work as a judiciary. But you, the MP, has been elected to serve as an oversight on the public purse and ensure that the right things are done to resolve the challenges that ordinary Ghanaians are having.
Exactly.
So they are different people. So the fact that the minister is there who is serving at the convenience of the president, he can be appointed and disappointed at any time that the president deems fit. But you, the MP, you are supposed to be there. You have been entrusted with the role to serve as an oversight on all our resources to ensure that our lives get better. And so you are held in a higher, more is required of the MP. That is why the public will most of the time target the MPs, because of the role and the trust that the people of Ghana have entrusted into this MPs. Simple. I think that Parliament probably did not feel the temperature. But Randy, then again, when you look at the chronology of events that led to the laying of this, for me, what I've known is that when LIs or CIs come to Parliament does very little to affect its content. Right. Yeah. I'm not too sure what's transpired in the 8th Parliament, such that this pre-laying thing has become a convention, because I don't think it's supported by any legislation. But then again, Parliament is a master of its own laws. So if Parliament thinks that going forward, for us to forestall, because of the experiences we had probably in the 7th Parliament regarding certain particular LIs and CIs that came to Parliament, now let's have a look at it. And then Parliament will, over time, because you see, the reality is that sometimes, and I should say, most times, Parliament works because there's negotiations, there has to be agreement on most of the issues. And so somebody will say, okay, give me this, and so I'll allow you to do this and all of that. It's all legit, and it's what is accepted in parliamentary practice. So maybe somebody had held somebody's, to be able to put those requirements in there. But clearly, the intention of the minister coming into Parliament did not include MPs. Clearly. But this is where we are. Thankfully for me, we have moved on. Parliament is heard what the public has said. The LI has been withdrawn. I'm looking forward to us coming to some sort of negotiated settlement such that this LI is revised and placed back for us to get to the required results that we seek. For me, it's been withdrawn. Let tempers come down. And I'm sure Parliament is being responsive to Ghanaians. They are listening. That is how come this thing is being withdrawn. Because my support for Parliament
it was withdrawn by government, not Parliament.
Of course, but of course, if the noise had not
and it is emanated, it is not to suggest that if government can return with the LI and exempt only MPs, and that once MPs are not on it, people will not have a problem with it.
Certainly. Like you were making a point that honorable appeal could be made. If ambulances are on there, then why not doctors? And so I will even go further and say, if doctors are on there, why not nurses? And if nurses are on there, why not the janitors are there?
Then we'll be getting to the realm of
that is where we'll
why not
anesthesia?
We'll
be getting anesthesia or whatever. We'll be getting to the realm of absurdity. Right? We'll be getting to the realm of absurdity. So that is where we have to cut this.
The disappointment is that when people have elected you to go and represent their interest, in fact, you come to beg the people to give you a job. From the president to...
Right, please. You go to the people.
You come and beg for a job.
You beg. It's true.
You see, it's true.
Whether you are running for president...
the president was telling us he was begging. Even
which president was in his house and the people of Ghana went to him and went to beg him to come and be president? So when you have begged the people of Ghana and you have told them that, look, myself and my group, we have what it takes to alleviate your suffering and to make things better for you. And they give you that opportunity. whether you're in the executive or the legislature. And then there is a problem that keeps degenerating. And instead of you solving the problem, they see that already you are using influence to skirt around the problem for yourself. And yesterday I said that all of us, on some occasions, we try and find if it is possible to get a dispatch to navigate with us. I won't sit here and say that I have never used that route to escape. Yes, to escape traffic.
Your platform
affords you. So when the people realize that these people who came to beg us, and we give them the opportunity, instead of solving this problem that keeps degenerating, they are actually legislating to escape the problem, to be comfortable around the problem. I mean, how do you expect them to take it? Yeah. How do you expect them to take it? So if the minister and the deputy minister is not experiencing what I'm experiencing,
why would they find a need?
Yes, why would they find a need to solve the problem?
It is to travel 1 hour from one point to the other, and that's what I'm saying. Thankfully,
Randy, I think that the anger, however you toast it or dice it, was justifiable, and I think that the executive, especially, could have done better. That does not exclude. That does not exclude the responsibility that members of parliament also have. Oh, please.
No.
Please.
You see, the original legislation that came to parliament.
Can I finish?
I am sure, Randy.
The anger is not against parliamentarians.
I think that if MPs were not included in there, will not be well.
But would that have been right?
I am not saying. High court judges or the judges of the Superior Court and the ministers and deputy ministers deserve better than MPs. I'm not saying, but you see, I've made a point that the role the MP has is different from that class of people. When somebody is a minister or a deputy minister, he serves because the president appoints them, and the president can appoint or disappoint them.
So that's the reason why he needs a siren and needs to be exempted from speed limits.
That is not necessarily what I'm saying.
No, but that's what the issue is about.
I am not rationalizing.
If you had even allowed me to finish my point, maybe we wouldn't be here. All the point I was seeking to make was that, look, the executive should have acted more responsibly on this matter. They should have left it at where we already know it to be, and maybe included the vice president. End of story.
In fact, even if they included the speaker and the CJ, nobody would
have raised an issue.
Yes.
But you see, they didn't have to add the ministers and deputy ministers. Like I said, there's already an existing arrangement where the ministers and deputy ministers can call for dispatch, riders when they are in an emergency situation and need to move from one place to the other. So they didn't need to do that. That's why I'm saying that the executive should have been more responsible.
Ministers have dispatch riders.
You understand?
They have access to dispatch riders.
But you see, Randy,
if MPs and ministers, without this law, you have fixed the thing. It's the small arrest that Paris people make.
Let me give you information. In fact, the understanding initially was that if members of parliament are allowed to have police bodyguards.
Yes.
And
it didn't happen in the 7th Parliament.
Yes, it didn't happen. But the thinking was that, in fact, I've been told that the suggestion was that because members of parliament have policemen who provide security for them and are in their vehicles when they are moving, with that, it is inferred that they can, when the need arises, they can navigate using that. But the thinking of members was that, look, why don't you just explicitly state it? And that's where I hold, members responsible, members of parliament responsible too. So I'm not saying that the executive and the members of parliament, should have been spared. No, that's not the point I'm saying. I'm saying the anger was justifiable. It is justifiable that people are still even angry and demanding more. But I'm saying that the executive should have been more responsible. They should have read the times and considered the attitude of people towards, governance as we are serving it today, and should have exempted the ministers and deputy ministers. And the MPs shouldn't have also fallen for the temptation. when they sell ministers and deputy ministers to request that they be included.
Because they felt that they were being disrespected.
Exactly. I don't think the MP should have. They should have rather. Yes. They should have rather, also drawn the executive's attention to the times that we are in, and demanded that the ministers and deputy ministers be removed from the list. But unfortunately, like I said, they fell for that temptation and requested that this be added. But the good thing, Randy, is that majority of members of parliament are opposed to this.
So, to be honest,
they were not consulted before
with the greatest of respect.
That's the good thing.
With the greatest of respect. Why does a judge need to be exempted? His vehicle needs to be exempted from speed limits. Why?
And he's going to. Why? He needs to give a judgment on a death sentence.
Why?
And there's time limit.
I'm sure that perhaps the judges themselves don't even know.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't.
They don't even know that.
Maybe we should also get to a point that we should recognize that not everything needs to be legislated.
Well,
like you say, look, the Speaker of Parliament, the Chief Justice, they already have access to some of this. Ministers,
they have. We put it at their disposal.
See, the basis
why go ahead to
legislate? Sometimes the way the thinking with which we approach our problems is the issue, Randy. The thinking with which we approach our problems. This whole thing is because Dampare came to office and was arresting ministers and deputy ministers and MPs.
They decided to enforce the law,
and so they decided to. The ministry decided to bring a law so that they can show him where power lies.
Do you know why?
That's all. I mean, how do we do that? Why do we do that to ourselves?
Those arrests were painful.
That's the thinking with which we approach our problems.
Those arrests were painful.
Dr. Dampare, please send your men to.
I think
Parliament.
She has toned down
to all the ministries and agencies, and arrest all the vehicles that have
sirens
installed and those lights. Go and arrest all of them. The LI has been withdrawn.
It has been withdrawn. It's no longer law.
We'll take a break. One return. Gama Shipon Gamanoni. State capture.
She's coming. She's coming.
Oh, it's in. Right now, receive now. Boss, let's go back. Here. Take this.
She's coming.
I know. Go to the pharmacy now.
She's coming. Oh. She's here.
Pay faster, pay safer, and pay easy with Momo app. Download now and pay with the QR code, merchant ID, and so much more.
Rise and shine, it's another day to stay on point. Toast is Friday, it's still on point. Watch is Friday all day long. Still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. Watch is Friday, it's still on point. For your bread,
it's creamy.
For your toast, it's still on point. It's yummy, delicious. It's still on point. Still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. It's still on point, yes, it's still on point. It's still on point. For your toast, it's still on point. It's still on point. Fortune spread, it's yummy, delicious. It's still on point.
Fortune spread, delicious, creamy, and always on point. This advert is FDA approved.
Anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath.
I'm a fat missy way.
The patch of Bantama.
Machas.
Cycle.
a smile.
The fresh breath.
Me, Gidi said we used to Cal 360 toothpaste. Some me kind.
Cal 360 toothpaste.
Gaskia, Cal 360 toothpaste. It's a gum protector. Onim jom kasan. Ile hosen. Cal 360 did the work. It's cool mint. Gives me fresh breath and your confidence booster.
And you will see so feeling kika when you know Cal 360 toothpaste.
Happy smile.
Cal 360 toothpaste, anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath. Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
In today's modern world, stairs are a challenge, especially for our elderly and those with health concerns. Navigating them can be difficult and even dangerous, but there's a safer way to move vertically. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, your answer to a more accessible and secure vertical transportation. Our elevators and escalators, including top-of-the-line pneumatic vacuum elevators, Fuji elevators and escalators, offer a safer and more convenient alternative, eliminating the risks of stairs and enhancing accessibility for homes, businesses, and hospitals. Choose safety and convenience with Lifts and Elevators Limited Company. Elevate your spaces today. For more information, visit our website at www.elevatorsgh.org or call now on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, the elevator people.
Blast. Boom! Exclusively on Betway. Win up to 300% more when you play FlyX with Win Boost from Betway. Betway, get way more.
The Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, Badea, is proudly 50 years now. We are celebrating it with the birth of a new Arab-Africa Cooperation for Development, dedicated to supporting the vision for the Africa we want. On Sunday, July 21st, 2024, as part of the African Union Mid-Year Coordination Meeting in Accra, Ghana, Africa's heads of state, leading business figures, heads of financial institutions from both Africa and the Arab region will join forces at a special leaders' breakfast, not only to celebrate 50 years of Arab-Africa partnership, but also to launch the Arab-Africa Financial Consortium, a new club of leading multilateral financial institutions, development finance institutions, and major sovereign wealth funds, brought together to chart a stronger and exciting future of cooperation and transformation. To register or learn more, go to bodea.org.
The luckiest.
Star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere. For everyone.
Lakoha, it's a missing opportunity to be the luckiest. It's time to put some smile on your face. Still asking what luck means? At Luckiest, we believe it's more than just chance. It's joy waiting to happen.
Let's go.
Dial star 712 hash. Now password your tickets not as a group, individual, and as a community. Now participating in the Luckiest from the 1st of July 2024. Grand draw near 30th November 2024. Luck is everywhere with the Luckiest. The Luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform and is not for persons below 18 years. Terms and conditions apply.
Right, welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, this is Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV. Still with me on the show, I have Alhaji Hussein Issa and Alhaji Alhassan Saibu. Sweeney. Okay, I'll get used to it. Yes.
Oh, this is not a Saturday.
Yes, Alaji.
Yeah. He was a panel. In fact, they started it.
Yes.
They started it.
Yes, that's true. All right, so Ayasoko, that could somebody be big, but Betway's cash out be bigger. Betway is giving you more control of every thrilling bet you place. Enjoy the biggest and most reliable cash out in Ghana on Betway without any hassle. Sign up today at betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. It's not for persons under 18 and is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more. And Blue Jeans energy drink has been on the Ghanaian market for over 20 years. We already know what it does for the body. It contains vitamins and nutrients like vitamin B2, B3, B6, B12, as well as taurine and guarana, which are known to boost your strength and energy, as well as promote high performance and endurance. Blue Jeans energy drink has been tested and tried. It's indeed the best. Blue Jeans energy drink is for bold and active men and women. So go on, grab a cold can and power your day. It's in shops nationwide, and you can reach Budget Cash and Carry Limited on 0208-128-190, 055-001-0000. All right, okay. So I've just been informed by my producer that today is the birthday of the Deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority, who's also the MPP's candidate for that. Yes, they've already put a picture out there, Akosia Meno. So today is Kozi's birthday. So happy birthday to you, Akosia Meno, aka Kozi. Okay. Why are you smiling? It looks like you've become excited. Or
a happy birthday, and even beyond that, I'm wishing her all the best.
I hardly see such excitement on your face.
Oh, I don't know if you're.
Anyway.
You know, sorry, I'm thinking, guys.
Anyway, okay. So let's move on. So the honourable member of Parliament for the Northern constituency, the Honourable Samuel Kujetu Ablakwa, who's also the ranking member on Foreign Affairs. He continues to be ranking on Foreign Affairs, right? He's now moved from Foreign Affairs
he's moved from Foreign
to
Affairs.
Government Assurance. So he's no longer ranking on Foreign Affairs.
No.
Okay.
I think Honourable Rashid Pelpo is now ranking
Foreign Affairs. Okay. All right. Okay. So he has been putting out some things over the years, over the last, I think, 7 years or so, and he calls it state capture. Now, yesterday, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources issued a statement, and that statement says allegation of state capture in respect of public lands, and it says that the attention of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has been drawn to allegations by the Honourable Member of Parliament for North Honourable Samuel Kujetu Ablakwa in respect of certain public lands which he alleges are evidence of state capture by the current government and its officials. Current government and its officials. The ministry welcomes any such interest and intense scrutiny of transactions relating to public lands of our country. That's the best way of protecting public lands. By Article 2571 of our national constitution, public lands are vested in the President of the Republic on behalf of and in trust for the people of Ghana. In the spirit of transparency and accountability, it says the ministry wishes to set the record straight in respect of the public lands to which the said allegations relate. Okay, so one, it starts with the Parks and Gardens land at cantonments, and it goes on to give us a chronology of the acquisition, and then it actually then goes on to say that on 16th of August 2012, the then Deputy Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Honourable Elvis Efri-Yankro, on behalf of the Minister, wrote to the then Chairman of Greater Accra Lands Commission requesting to sell 2 acres of this land to enable it to raise funding to resource the Department of Parks and Gardens. The letter stated that the department was in dire need of office infrastructure and other working tools, and the agency wishes to sell 2 acres of land It is currently occupying cantonments to enable it to raise the needed funding to resource itself. The letter indicated the support of the Ministry of Local Government, noting that the Ministry has received a number of interests in the land over the years, and that proceeds from the sale shall be used to provide parks and gardens with a new office, staff bars, some tractors, water tankers, and the needed hand tools it's currently in dire need of to restructure and reposition itself as a viable government agency. And a said letter requested the support of the Lands Commission for the transaction. It says subsequently, by a letter dated 19 February, the then Chief Director submitted further documents. A copy of a PPP, Public-Private Partnership Agreement, dated 23 July 2012 between the Ministry of Local Government Rural Development and Akumbani and Associates in respect of the land. A complete set of drawings for the new offices of the department to be constructed under the agreement. Says the Greater Accra Lands Commission at the meeting 17th April 2013 considered the application and deferred same for further clarification. 22nd April, Akumbani Associate wrote to the Greater Accra Regional Lands Officer indicating that Wontirim Company Limited is a subsidiary of the company and that the grant of lands in question should be made to Wontirim Company Limited. 4th October 2013, Lands Commission, as part of its due diligence, sought the advice of the Attorney General, a Minister for Justice, on the PPP agreement and proposed grant of the land to finance the construction of a new office complex. 13 June 2014, Attorney General, Minister of Justice granted approval and authorized the grant of lease, approval for the PPP agreement and authorized the grant of the lease over the land. Earlier, by a letter dated 22nd November 2013 from the Dadekoto Municipal Assembly, the Assembly approved an application. And then 13th October 2016, the Ministry of Local Government reaffirmed its commitment to the PPP agreement. 13th October 2016. Then 29th November 2016, government granted, by a lease dated 29th November 2016, government granted 2 acres of land occupied by parks and gardens at cantonments to Wontirim Company Limited, a subsidiary, for a term of 50 years. The parcel of land, the subject of the Honorable MP's allegation, was therefore sold in the year 2016, certainly not under the current administration. It says Wontirim Company Limited, having obtained the above lease, assigned a portion of its interest to Danny Ike, Real Estate Developers Company Limited. So it says, for the avoidance of doubt, the lease and or sale of the land at cantonments allocated to the department, subject matter, commenced in 2012, concluded in 2016 through a 50-year lease granted 29 November 2016. It says the allegations that the said land has been granted by the current administration to cronies is what has been described as state capture are therefore false. Then it goes on to the judicial service land. He also gives a chronology. It says that 2014 frames applied for grant of portions of the land, 0.90 acres. The land had bungalows on it. The Ministry of Works and Housing, in support of the application, stated that the land had been earmarked for redevelopment and may be granted subject to the payment of the cost of the replacement of the bungalows. And the Lands Commission on 8th May requested for ministerial approval to grant the lands. 2nd June 2015, then Minister for Lands, Honorable Neil Samuels, granted approval. 3rd June 2015, Lands Commission made an offer of the land measuring approximately 1.39 acres, which includes the 0.90 acres occupied by the Judicial Service to Frames Oil. Frames Oil, by a letter dated 6 June 2015, accepted the offer. And on 13 July, a lease was executed over the land in favor of Frames Oil Company Limited for a term of 50 years. There's something I find quite interesting. There's a request for a lease for 0.90 acres. But then it says that by a letter dated 3rd June, the Lands Commission made an offer of the land measuring approximately 1.39 acres. But the request was for 0.9 acres. It says, which includes the 0.9 acres occupied by the Judicial Service to Frames Oil. I don't know where the...
Sometimes I'm thinking that when you're allocating land, and maybe, I mean, they had to be coterminous or something like that. Because
I don't understand.
If there was a sort of an alleyway or some sort of land left that had no access to it, I mean, it just made sense.
This is this is half an acre of land.
That is not a justified.
Then it says that by a letter dated 27th of June 2017, the Office of the President directed the Lands Commission to withdraw the lease executed in favor of Frames Oil, together with 23 other leases. Subsequently, on 22nd September 2017, the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources constituted a committee to investigate issues pertaining to the Accra Redevelopment Scheme. Following the submission of the committee's report, the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, by a letter dated 28 December 2017, directed that the lease granted to Frames Oil Limited in the year 2015, together with 7 other leases that had been cancelled pursuant to the directive, be restored, and the lease was accordingly restored. Now, listen to this carefully. The letter dated 27th of June 2017 by the Office of the President directed the Lands Commission to withdraw leases executed for 24 leases. Then there was the AMEU committee, according to this, to investigate issues pertaining to this. And then it says that after following the submission of the report, the Ministry for Lands and National Resources directed that the lease granted to 8 of these 24 be restored, and the lease was accordingly restored. So the restoration of the lease occurred December 2017 after this committee's report. So 24 leases were withdrawn. However, after the committee's report, 8 leases, including this one,
were still withdrawn.
Yes, this one were. So it will be interesting to see the committee's report and the basis for the restoration of these leases. So the restoration of the lease actually occurred 28th of December 2017. Then it says 28th August 2020, Frames Oil petitioned the Office of Attorney General and Minister of Justice on its inability to have vacant possession. 28th January 2023, Frames Oil wrote to the Judicial Service to vacate the premises. And 8th May 2023, the Judicial Service wrote to the Ministry of Works and Housing complaining about the demands. The Ministry of Works and Housing confirmed the lease of the land to Frames Oil as far back as 2015 and promised to find a suitable alternative accommodation for the affected judges. That's a bit dishonest. But it says, dissatisfied with this response from the Ministry of Works and Housing, the Judicial Service on 7 July 2023 instituted an action against the Lands Commission, Frames Oil, and the Attorney General for a declaration that the purported lease is unconstitutional and unlawful. The action also seeks an injunction against the Lands Commission. Based on the above, Ministry of Works and Housing wrote to the Lands Commission not to transfer any property occupied by the Judicial Service to third parties. At the instance of her ladyship, the Chief Justice, officials of the Judicial Service, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Ministry of Works and Housing, Office of Attorney General, Ministry of Justice, and the Lands Commission met to find an amicable solution to the impasse. The matter is still pending, awaiting such amicable resolution.
So the committee is still working on how to resolve the issue surrounding the Judicial Service, and I don't see anything.
Oh, we are not done.
No.
In the midst of all this, in the midst of all this, court injunctions have been flouted and demolitions have taken place. Yes. And it says for the
11-page document.
Yes,
you're going through all of
it goes to the prison service land at Roman Ridge, the Parks and Gardens land at Wa. So it confirms that indeed that land has been sold. However, it says that there were squatters on the land and the thing has been put to use. I wonder if and then on the Dubois Center, it says that for the avoidance of doubt, the land occupied by the Dubois Center, the subject matter of the MP's allegation, has neither been sold nor leased to any private entity. So that is the issue. Now, the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa himself, at 5 a.m. today, posted his response to the ministry's press release. And it says that my attention has been drawn to a statement from the Minister responsible for Lands and Natural Resources in what appears to be a desperate effort at refuting the overwhelming and incontrovertible evidence of state capture by the Akufo-Addo/Bawumia government. I take judicial notice that Honorable Samuel Abu-Jinapur's disingenuously selective statement was totally silent on the following cases of blatant state capture which I have consistently spoken against in and outside Parliament. 1. The demolition of the Bulgarian embassy located in East Cantonments on 26 April 2017 and subsequent sale of the land in issue to an appointee of President Akufo-Addo at the NDPC by name Dr. Yawedu Ampoma. My expose led to government establishing a commission of inquiry. Instructively, the Bulgarians are yet to be compensated as recommended by the sole inquirer Justice Kwesi Antoforiata. 2. The demolition of properties belonging to the Nigerian High Commission on the night of June 19, 2020. 3. The loss of Labadi Beach Hotel's beachfront to former NPP chairman Mr. Freddie Blaise Sands. 4. Opaque attempted sale of 62.14 acres of prime land belonging to the Ghana Airports Company Limited to Heaven Builders Limited, which was eventually aborted due to my timely expose on Monday, October 2, 2023. 5. Portions of Ghana Prison Service Barracks land located near the Dankwa Circle roundabout, Osu, which has been handed over to a private developer. The minister responsible for the interior, Honorable Henry Quartey, has since confirmed this when he appeared in Parliament to respond to my urgent questions on Friday, July 4, 2024. Parks and Gardens land in Wa. It is worthy of note that the Lands and Natural Resources Minister confirms my expose on the sale of the Parks and Gardens land in Wa. The attempt by the minister to seek refuge in dubious rezoning claims will not be accepted. I commend the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Honorable Martina J. Mensah-Kosa, who clearly disagrees with the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, by his assurance to Parliament on July 4, 2024, when he responded to my urgent questions, that he will take active steps to reclaim the land and demolish the illegal fuel station constructed on the Wa Parks and Gardens land. Parks and Gardens land in cantonments. The Lands and Natural Resources Minister claims the land in issue was sold under the NDC. Instructively, when the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development appeared before Parliament on July 4, 2024, he stated emphatically and unequivocally that per their records at the Ministry, the Parks and Gardens land in cantonments is firmly under the ownership of his ministry and that no portion has been sold. The Local Government Minister added in Parliament that Danny Ike has not been able to produce a valid title to the land. Indeed, the Local Government Minister promised Parliament that he would take steps to remove the containers of the private developer, Danny Ike Real Estate Developers, from the Parks and Gardens land. The Minister has since done exactly that, clearly keeping his promise to Parliament. I issued a statement commending the Local Government Minister after my tour of the Parks and Gardens land confirmed that the Minister has removed the containers. It seems to me that there are two extremely different versions from two ministers of state on the same piece of land. It is obviously impossible for both ministers to be right. Curiously, the Lands Minister's narrative cleverly omits the 2021 attempt by the Akufo-Addo/Bawumia government to construct a 5-story office complex for the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Government on that same piece of land belonging to the Department of Parks and Gardens. This decision was vehemently opposed by the environmentalist and the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority in a letter dated July 19, 2021 and signed by LUPSA Acting Head Kwejo Yeboah. See intercepted letter attached. LUPSA from the letter declined to approve the request for variation of certificate of allocation from the Municipal Chief Executive of the Ladade-Kotupon Municipal Assembly. Following the LUPSA letter and considerable public agitation in 2021, the Akufo-Addo/Bawumia government abandoned the attempt to construct an office complex for the Local Government Ministry on the Parks and Gardens land in cantonments. So the logical question that arises is, if the land has been sold in 2016, how come it was available in 2021 for government to contemplate constructing government offices on that same piece of land? W.E.B. Du Bois Center. My unimpeachable parliamentary oversight led to the discovery of a 50-year agreement with the title Agreement between Government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation, Ghana, for the finance, management, and transfer of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center. The 46-page transfer agreement was signed on the 22nd of September 2023 by Honorable Shelley Ayoko Botwe, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, and Godfrey Yeboah Adami, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. They both signed on behalf of the Government of Ghana. See attached a copy of this agreement. I'm also attaching a letter from the President's office showing communication between the President and the privately owned Du Bois Foundation at the receiving end of the 50-year transfer. Significantly, the letter confirms the President's participation at an upcoming August 27, 2024 sword cutting ceremony. Additionally, I'm publishing a July 8, 2024 letter signed by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Arts and Culture confirming the existence of the 50-year agreement. I will generously advise the Lands Minister to check with the President and his colleague Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Attorney General and Tourism, what a new plan for the Du Bois Center is. They may even be kind to add that David Ajay, the architect, has already received his $2.5 million payment for his redesigning of the center.
David Ajay again.
Yes, and if you go to David Ajay's site, you will see a post on the Du Bois Center. He describes it and the architectural. That's what you're seeing on your screen now. So you go on their website, you see this there. Judicial Service Land. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources' own narrative contained at paragraphs 25 to 27 are most instructive. Paragraph 25, by a letter dated 27 June 2017, the Office of the President directed the Lands Commission to withdraw the lease executed in favor of Prince Oil Company Limited together with 23 other leases. Paragraph 26, subsequently on 22nd September 2017, the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable John Peter Amewu, constituted a committee to investigate issues pertaining to the Accra Development Scheme. Paragraph 27. Following the submission of a committee's report, the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, by a letter dated 28 December 2017, directed that a lease granted to Frims Oil Company Limited in the year 2015, together with 7 other leases that had been cancelled pursuant to the directive of the Office of the President, be restored, and the lease was accordingly restored. From the highlighted paragraphs, the Lands Commission, on the instruction of President Kufuor, on June 27, 2017, withdrew the lease for Frims Oil and 23 others. Strangely, on December 28, 2017, the Kufuor-Bawumia government restored the lease for Frims Oil and 7 others, not the entire 23. Granted that the Lands Minister's strenuous effort to equalize are grounded, the current government had every authority and opportunity not to restore the lease, particularly as they did not restore all the initial 28 leases and restored only 8. It is imperative to note that the demolition of the judges' bungalows happened under this government. It is also under this government that the private developers defied a court injunction of 28 November 2023 and proceeded to demolish the final set of bungalows. Ghana Prison Service land at Roman Ridge. It's quite curious and somewhat dishonest that the Lands Minister would describe his colleague in government and
that's quite detailed, though.
And a senior advisor to Vice President Bawumia as one Professor Apiedu. For the record, I've always stated that Professor Apiedu claims to have purchased the Roman Ridge land during President Kufuor's era in 2005. The period of purchase cannot legitimize the brazen efforts to encroach land the Ghana Prison Service hierarchy strongly affirm belongs to the service. Here too, the Minister for the Interior was in Parliament on July 5, 2024 to respond to my urgent question, where he confirmed my impeccable oversight findings and assured Parliament that his ministry will support the appeal filed by the Ghana Prison Service that did not agree with the claims of Bawumia's senior advisor. It is quite disappointing that the Lands Minister failed to acknowledge in a statement that the Ghana Prison Service has filed an appeal against the earlier decision in favor of Professor Apiedu. And then he concludes. He says, "We see the destructive impact of state capture all around us on a daily basis. Only yesterday, occupants of the Roman Ridge flats, who are all long-serving distinguished public servants, were informed at a meeting chaired by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Works and Housing that they have to prepare to move out because their flats have been affected by the ongoing grossly abused Accra redevelopment policy. Unfortunately for the Ministry of Lands, long press statements with a skewed selective focus, pious grandstanding, and an unpatriotic effort aimed at imaginary partisan equalization cannot change the minds of the Ghanaian people when they can all see unprecedented naked state capture in motion. I need not remind the Minister of his colleague, who willed parts of our treasured Achimota Forest and Ramsar site to his nephew forever. We can assure Minister Abu Jinapor, just as we defeated state capture and took back our snake hotels a few days ago, so shall we defeat state capture under his watch and repossess all our looted lands on the day of reckoning. For God and country, Ghana first." Hajj.
Randy, that's quite a bit of information to digest on live TV. Repetitive in there is the word state capture. My question to Honorable Kujetu would be, what are his cutoff dates? When does this begin? When does that end? The supposed acquisition of a land in Roman Ridge by the advisor to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, which he had done in 2005. I mean, I don't see how that becomes a problem under the government of Nana-Addo, Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and now that the prof has been appointed or is working with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. But you see, essentially, I have actually seen the statement issued by the minister yesterday, and I was very impressed with the chronology of events captured, supported by documentation. At this stage, I think that it's very crucial that for everything that you say, it's supported by documentation. And the minister is saying, for example, the issue of the Du Bois Memorial Center, it has not come to his table. Essentially, in the press release by the minister, he quotes 2 constitutional provisions. Article 2571 says that all public lands in Ghana shall be vested in the president on behalf of and in trust for the people of Ghana, period. So in decisions affecting public lands, I mean, if you look, the Constitution goes on to define what public lands, and in certain regions, it actually puts this beyond vested. And then further on, Article 2582, the minister responsible for lands and natural resources may, with the approval of the president, give general directions in writing to the Lands Commission own matters of policy in respect of the functions of the commission, and the commission shall comply with the directions. So these directions will have to come from the minister. Insofar as things could happen outside of him, but he has come up explicitly taking property about property. I'm thinking that rather than us move the goalpost, because there were specific lands or properties that the Minister for Lands addressed, and I'm hoping that we stay on those specific ones in the response that Honorable Okudzeto is coming up with, so we are able to digest it.
But he's provide the responses for the specific
I'm hearing about
ones.
the Bulgarian, Nigerian High
No,
Commission. I think...
No, he starts with what he believes is a selective response, because he has raised all these issues as part of his state capture. So the point he's making is that you first of all don't pick and choose what to respond to. But he has gone on to respond to those specific ones, and he has also attached documents.
Certainly. I mean it's documentation, because the minister in his press release quoted dates and summary of contents of some of these documents, which I'm sure are public documents. So anybody interested in the matter can verify them.
Yes.
And I think that it's a way to go. I think the minister's response to this is excellent. And I'm hoping that whatever Honorable Okudzeto is thrown again into the public domain will be equally vetted and where the truth lies. But the assumption of the state capture, look, when you look at all the properties, I think 5 or so that the minister addressed, obviously, I mean, it is not the first time government is allocating land to a private person, a place like Wa, for the use or for commercial use. And in any case, it's a lease for 50 years. It is not outright sale. So what is there, as if it just has never happened? But there are examples, like the minister stated.
Maybe you didn't hear what
am not
Honorable
sure
Blackwell said.
Yes, because I think it's a lot
what
of
he
information.
said here, no, he put out documentation, because he said many of the things here.
Yeah.
To the extent that the regional minister, I always confuse Upper East and Upper West. The Y and Bulgar thing.
Why is Upper West?
So let me help you. Upper West. Wa.
That's how I get it. West. Wa. That's how I get it.
That's how
I always confuse them.
In
So the West Wa. Okay. WW. Okay. So the point that Honorable Okudzeto made, he was lamenting how helpless ministers of state had become in view of this thing. That the regional minister went out to stop this private developer, and the WA one went out to stop the private developer from developing parks of gardens land into a filling station. And the acting head of the Lands Commission in the region wrote to the minister to tell the minister to back off. And that the land...
That is captured in the Constitution.
No, you don't get what I'm saying. I'm saying that. Yes, okay. I'm saying that. That the land had been properly allocated to the private developer.
Yeah.
And so the regional minister, who thought he was protecting state land belonging to the parks and gardens, had become helpless.
Yeah.
So he raised that issue. Then on the issue of the parks and gardens at...
But you see, my point is that given the constitutional provisions, Article 2571, 2582, I think that the minister is justified in allocating that land. The regional minister, I think, I am not faulting, I'm not too sure the checks the regional minister undertook before stopping the private developer. Because if I were a regional minister and something of the sort comes to my table, I'm sure I would undertake some due diligence before going there to physically stop some activity happening on public lands. Right, that's what I would do. I'm not too sure what happened, but the Constitution actually grants the minister the right through the presidency to allocate that land. And if it's a transparent process, there's nothing untoward about that. If it's a transparent process, there's nothing untoward about that. That's my point. And the press release by the minister, for me, when I saw it, I had not cared, irrespective of what Honorable Okudzeto is saying this morning. I was impressed because I think that it captured the chronology from when some of these lands were acquired, 18-something, to what has happened over time to date. And I think that this is how we should be going. And I think that the minister has done a yeoman's job going forward. I think that it's going to be your document after my document. But this whole element of state capture is what I find the issue with.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
let me ask you a question. On the issue of the Dubois Center.
Yeah.
The minister's statement is categorical.
Nothing is unstable.
Yes.
And so
it says, no, let me read it. It says that the land occupied by the Dubois Center was acquired in 1897. Title dated 20th December 1897 for government purposes. The site is currently being occupied by the Dubois Center, and the Lands Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has no pending application for the grant of this parcel of land to any third party. For the avoidance of doubt, the land occupied by the Dubois Center, the subject matter of the Member of Parliament's allegations, has neither been sold nor leased to any private entity. From the foregoing, it is clear that the lands, the subject matter of the Member of Parliament's allegations, were not sold or leased under a current administration and all that. Now, in making the specific allegation of the Dubois Center, the Honourable Member of Parliament speaks to a document, an agreement, signed by two cabinet ministers, the foreign minister, and obviously the Dubois Center is under the foreign ministry, right?
I'm not too sure.
Dubois Center?
I am not too sure.
I think it's under the foreign ministry.
I'm saying this because when I was in Parliament, I was a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. There are some agencies like the Kofi Annan Center and the Accra International Conference Center, which were under the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, but I never heard of
So there's an agreement that he speaks to, which he says that is signed by the Attorney General, a Minister for Justice, and then the Foreign Minister. That was what a Member of Parliament put out. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
The Member of Parliament even alludes to an invitation to the President to come and cut a sword, and a response by the President's office to that particular foundation. And in fact, he's released copies of the foundation, its setup, who the directors are, what they do, and all that. Now, shouldn't we be told whether indeed two cabinet ministers have signed an agreement to lease the Dubois Center for 50 years? And on top of that, we also see, as has been shown, that David J. and Associates have actually published on their site the fact that they have redesigned the W.E.B. Dubois Museum Complex. Technical info. You will see those details where they now tell you that the memorial site and compound will function as a campus of remembrance, reflection, and learning that speaks to the life and legacy of Dubois and all that. Ajayi and Associates redesign of the center aims to provide a world-class destination for academics, blah, 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 blah. Shouldn't government be responding to all of this?
Oh, nice and good. The minister has put out information that at this material time, per the provisions of this constitution, here is the guy, here is the man. These things will have to go through his desk, for those allegations. And policy directions to the Lands Commission. And he is saying that at this material moment, there is nothing on his desk.
Chief.
So we should just...
Was the minister responding to allegations against the government or against him and his ministry?
You see?
That's the point.
I will still go back to the constitution.
In fact, he ends by saying that from the foregoing, it's clear that the lands, the subject matter of the Member of Parliament's allegations, were not sold and or leased under the current administration, and the allegations of state capture are therefore false.
And explicitly, all the lands that
the Honourable Member of Parliament,
the wild land,
the Honourable
not started.
The Honourable Member of Parliament, is saying that there's an agreement of a 50-year lease, which is signed for Dubois Center, which is signed by, he claims is signed by two cabinet ministers, the Attorney General and the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
So my point is that,
what's government's response to it? David Ajay has told us that he's redesigned the place.
My point is that Article 2582 gives the minister the right to give Lands Commission a policy direction.
Mm.
I mean, what a president, because in fact, everything is vested in the president.
Mm.
And the minister is saying that,
Mm.
per his press release yesterday, that this particular Du Bois Center has not come to his desk. So for what the Honorable Member of Parliament is putting out, he's unable to react to it. Now that there's information contrary to it, let's give the minister the opportunity.
No, this information, the MP made it available earlier.
Oh, the MP had made it
yes,
earlier.
Yes.
That I'm not privy to. That I'm not privy to.
Okay.
But the minister stated his stance.
All right.
Let us give him the opportunity based on the new information.
This is the document. That's the document.
Which of the documents is that?
The Du Bois one. That's the one scrolling there.
The agreement, the lease agreement.
Yes.
His consistency and his diligence. He's a diligent, consistent member of Parliament. And he deserves tons and tons of commendation for the very difficult task that he has, taken up when it comes to holding government to account for the infractions that cost money, infractions that cost life, and indeed, infractions that threaten the very survival of our democracy. The very survival of our democracy. And so, it doesn't matter what you think of him or say about him. I think that we all must commend him for daring to stand up and to raise the very, very important questions of, accountability and use of public resources. Randy, I've gone through the minister's response. And having dealt with the minister on a number of issues as then deputy ranking member of the Lands and Forestry Committee.
Now chairman. Oh, ranking.
Now ranking, yes. I, Randy, think that the minister has two very critical problems in your engagements with him that will show. One, he considers every criticism of his ministry as a personal criticism, and so he responds with a partisan approach.
Let's not get...
Please, I beg you, when you were talking, I didn't interrupt you, so let's respect that.
Right,
I beg
okay.
you. Those are my views.
That's fine.
He considers every criticism of him and his... every criticism... he takes it personal, and he gives a partisan response. And again, the second problem is that I don't know whether, I don't want to use the word naivety, but he tends to place too much confidence in the information that his technical officers give him. I'm not saying as a minister you shouldn't trust the information that your technical people give you. But I think, knowing our society, sometimes it is important to go beyond the official information you are given as a minister, especially because you are going to sign to it. And be sure that the official information you are given is actually the true record of the situation. But he tends to place too much credence on what he is given. And because he's motivated to respond in a partisan way, I see that sometimes some of his technical officers feed him that kind of information. And in the end, he embarrasses himself. Look, Randy, when I was reading through his statement, do you know what caught my attention first and foremost? Which I took note of. And it caught my attention because pending in Parliament today is a question that I have asked the minister relating to the sale of the timber market land in Tamale. It's a pending question that I have asked him. And before the minister comes to answer the question, if it's not an urgent question, the answer is published. Yeah. So the question was published last week, but he wasn't available to answer the question. But the answer was already published. Randy, and my question was to find out how much revenue government made from that particular sale. Now, very typical of the minister, like in the response that he gave to Ablakwa, that my claim that the land in question had been sold is palpably false. Then he goes on in his answer to admit that it has been leased for 621 Ghana cedis per month. Per year. So his response initially was that my claim that it's been sold is a lie, but that it is leased. But Randy, when I was reading his response to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, he used lease and sold interchangeably. But in Parliament, he's telling us that sale is not the same as lease. But in the media, when he's responding to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, he uses lease and sold interchangeably. To understand that the concept of land sale, legislative and economic concept of land sale in Ghana, is a lease. Yeah, that's the concept of land sale in Ghana by our laws. But in Parliament, like I'm saying, he tries to say that my claim is false. In fact, that's how he opens. It's false. We haven't sold the land. Then he goes on to say that it's a lease. But I'm saying that. But I'm saying, Randy. But I'm saying that's the dishonesty. But Randy, in the press, when he's responding to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, he says, for example, for the avoidance of doubt, the lease or sale of the land at Cantonment allocated to the Department of Parks and Gardens, the subject matter, blah blah blah. So he says, the lease or sale of the land. So he uses it interchangeably. So you see, when you are minded, please, I didn't interrupt you. I deliberately allowed you to have all the time. Right, okay. So please allow me to also proceed without that interruption. Let's just respect those rules of engagement. So Randy, I'm saying that clearly speaking, I think that this bias to consider every criticism as personal and then to respond in a partisan manner reflected in his responses. So he was trying to equate, to find equalization. And that has been his rhetoric. When you ask about accountability on how this government is dealing with lands, the rhetoric is always that, hey, if we go into it, your people will be embarrassed. So what? We are talking about the need for us to judiciously use the resources that are vested in the president by our constitution. It doesn't matter if it was wrong in the past. It must be condemned, it must be exposed and condemned, and it must be corrected. You cannot use past mistakes, if there are any, because I don't even believe there are any, to justify your current mistakes. Why then did you take over power? So you find the minister in the response attempting to say that some of the leases with the lands in question, started before this administration, and even that he gets it wrong. You talk about the Parks and Garden land. See the obvious contradictions. You have one minister of the same government come to Parliament with one narrative. Then you have the minister also espousing a different narrative in his statement. Clear contradictions. The minister of local government comes to Parliament and says that the land is still in possession of the ministry and that the private developer is unable to produce any authentic lease to the land and has actually begun taking steps to retrieve the land and to ward away the private developer. Are you getting the point? That, in my view, is a responsible public servant acting in the interest of the state. But then you have the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources perhaps depending once again, on information he is fed by technical advisors that is seeking to protect the interest of a so-called private developer. And yet you have the minister, not addressing his mind to that obvious contradiction coming from two ministers of state in the same government over the same parcel of land. That should be worrying. Again, you are speaking to a matter that was a PPP arrangement. The PPP arrangement, according to your own narrative, if we want to believe your narrative, started under the previous government. Government is continuing. It came to your tenure. Have you reported to us if the partner involved in this PP arrangement, has actually lived up to the expectation of the government of the day. Because you are telling us that the private developer was to take this land and was to provide certain logistics to the parks and garden, funding to the parks and garden. That's what you are telling us. Has that been done?
So the Honorable Elvis Efriankra,
yes,
who was Deputy Minister
at the time. In fact, he cites his letters.
He has sent me documents. So there is a 6th February 2012 letter, which is signed by Nantongma Adam Wumbe, Chief Parks and Gardens Officer, resourcing of the Department of Parks and Gardens. And it says, having exhausted to raise the needed funding to support the department, and with due consideration to the many competing commitments on government, and with due regard to the discussions we've been having over the past year on resourcing the department, we wish to suggest that a part of our land at cantonments is leased out for the purposes of using the proceeds thereof to resource the department of the required logistics. Indeed, we continue to receive proposals on this property, which have continuously forwarded to the ministry. Then he goes to say the lack of logistics as staff bus tractors continue to stifle our work. Says key among our needs is an office infrastructure as the building.
So that's consistent with what
that's what I said. I get that.
So he has this letter dated 6th February, and then a reminder signed by the same acting Chief Parks and Gardens Officer on the 13th of July. Then interestingly, on the 20th of February 2017, there is this letter from Akumbani and Associates to the Honorable Minister of Local Government, the Honorable Hajj Ali Mamahama. And it says, agreement between Akumbani and Associates and Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development on behalf of Parks and Gardens. It says, we make reference to your letter to the Lands Commission dated the 23rd of September 2016. Reference, the number is here. On the above subject, we wish to inform you that the Lands Commission has subsequently reissued us with the lease documents. In fulfillment of our agreement, therefore, we wish to inform you that all the immovable items that we need to support Parks and Gardens with have been procured and are ready for delivery. We hereby wish to be given a convenient date to present the items while we wait for the permit to be secured so we can commence construction of the new offices as per the agreement. Kindly find attached a copy of the items to be delivered. Thank you very much in anticipation of the usual cooperation, and it's signed by Isabella Asamwenin, General Manager, on behalf of the company.
So Randy, that's the point I am making. Now, those contradictions, first of all, have to be addressed. How come the Minister for Local Government currently in this government has a different narrative from the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources? That's one. Secondly, if you claim that the agreement predates this administration, what have you been doing since you took over? And remember I said earlier that the wrongs of the past should not be used to justify the wrongs of today. So if you agree with Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa and many Ghanaians that some of these lands must not fall into the hands of private developers, what have you been doing? Now, the arrangement that you point to was to ensure that some office buildings were constructed for the Parks and Garden, you know, in lieu of this portion of land. Has that been done? Has the private developer met that obligation that was imposed? You haven't reported to that. You haven't reported, you know, to us on that. Again, it is instructive that Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa in his responses has reminded us all about some 5-story complex building that was supposed to be put up in 2021 under this administration. If they did not have possession of the land in 2021, how come they were contemplating putting up a 5-story, you know, building to accommodate, you know, the officers of Parks and Garden at the time? I mean, these are all questions that are begging, you know, for answers. Then you look at the Judicial Service land. Clearly, again, more questions than answers. You claim in your attempt to equalize that the leases were given in 2016 and reversed in 2017 by the Lands Commission. So the commission sat in 2017 and reversed all the 24 leases. Is that it? 24 leases. And yet, a couple of years down the line, you restore 8. On what basis did you restore the 8?
I think
on what basis did you restore the 8? Let us know. What was different between the 8 and then the 20, the rest of the 23 that you did not reverse? So these are all questions that need more answers. And in the case of the Du Bois Center, again, he says that, look, the lands, remember in his opening, he said the lands are vested in the president.
That's right.
They are vested in the president, which is true. It is constitutional. Then he says that there is no pending lease. I mean, a request. There's no pending request at the Lands Commission. But, Randy, check the way, the last paragraph of that statement. He says there is no pending lease for any, a request for any lease at the Lands Commission. But then the last paragraph, he says, from the foregoing, it is clear that the lands, the subject matter of the Member of Parliament's allegation, were not sold and or leased under the current administration, and the allegations of state capture are therefore false.
Yeah, because any sale or lease will have to come to the minister's desk.
Exactly. So you see, the minister has to be. The minister has to be categorical. He has to be categorical.
I think it was.
First of all, in the opening, he says that it is not being sold.
In fact, just
what do you mean by it is not sold?
Just today. What's today's date?
Today is 17th.
17th.
Yeah, 17th July.
Exactly 9 days ago. Yeah. 9 days ago, on the 8th of July 2024, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture wrote to the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation. This letter was signed by John Yao Agbeko, Chief Director for Minister. Attention Executive Director Mr. Jafet Aiku says, following the successful execution of the agreement between the government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture and the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation, Ghana, the incorporation of the special purpose vehicle for the finance and management of the E.B. Du Bois Center in Accra and the partial fulfillment of the conditions precedent to effectiveness of the agreement, we wish to request the W.E.B. Du Bois Foundation Ghana to furnish the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture with further documentation to facilitate our decision to timely hand over the assets to you. To timely hand over the asset to you. It would be appreciated if you could address the evidence of adequate funds to pay the salaries of the staff of MFGH. So MFGH will be what? Okay. That's the Museum Foundation Ghana. W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation, MFGH. For the construction period, as well as to undertake the refurbishment of the new entity as per the agreement, see clauses 417 and 7213. You are therefore kindly requested to show availability of funds in an account open in Ghana with an amount of $13 million as provided by the agreement. You are also expected to submit to the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture a performance bond issued by an internationally recognized bank in the amount of 15% of the total project cost, without which we are unable to hand over the site to you.
Randy.
You see, so
Randy,
let me conclude so you can come in. Let me conclude. So
then let me just read this. This is from the Office of the President. It's dated 6th of May 2024. It's signed by Nana Bide to Asante, Secretary to the President, and it's to Mr. Daniel Rose, Chairman of the Board, W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation, Accra. Request for President Nana to cut sword on 27th August 2024. With reference to your correspondence dated 22nd April 2024, bearing on the above subject matter, I write to inform you that the President of the Republic will be available to participate in the sword cutting ceremony for the renovation of the Du Bois bungalow on Tuesday, 27th August 2024. In the light of the above, it will be appreciated if a program outline of activities could be forwarded to the Office of the President for consideration. Please accept the President's best wishes.
There was an operational wedding, a renovation of what?
The bungalow.
So Randy.
Renovation of bungalow.
Yes.
Randy.
And is that same captured in the lease agreement signed by the Attorney General and the Foreign Minister?
It's not a bungalow. Yeah, even you refer to, go and look at David Ajay's document. In fact, what sits there?
My point.
What sits there? What sits on the land?
Yeah.
What is sitting on the land is a bungalow.
It's a bungalow.
Yes,
it's a bungalow.
It's referred to as a
bungalow. And the reference from the Secretary of the President is to. I mean, I don't have the document. You have.
So the President will go and commission the sword cutting of the renovation of a bungalow.
Not essentially. It is about
the
museum and its new focus.
David Ajay associates are telling us.
And its new focus.
Please.
It's the relevant and operative thing that we want to do.
He knows what he's doing. He's deliberately trying to detract from the importance of this conversation.
But it's new information that we are getting. I don't have access to that document.
The minister must come again. His explanations do not, answer all the questions that have been asked and continue to be asked. In the case of the Du Bois, this thing like you have just said. I mean, you cannot tell us that it is vested in the president, and you are responsible for acting on behalf of the president.
In fact, to go by that, what you're saying is that the ministers and public officials who are engaged in this are engaged in an illegality.
And an illegality.
And the president of the republic has agreed to go and cut the sword for an illegality.
That is why I sought clarity.
This state capture is nationwide.
That is why I sought clarity.
It's not just it's nationwide. Look, as we speak, like I was telling you about the pending question involving the sale of the timber market in Tamale. It is the same in Laura, in Upper West, in Upper East, across the country.
That is why I sought clarity.
I've just been told that the GS office in Laura,
that is what is going to happen.
Is currently occupied by a politically exposed person. It has been hijacked.
Oh.
Yes, as we speak.
Oh.
The GS office in Laura, who is occupying it?
You want us to start enumerating those things?
Oh. I mean, that state capture that this government is engaged in has to be checked and stopped at all costs.
All right, let's
go. The minister
has
been consistent. And for me, I welcome all those new information. And I'm hoping in the next couple of days, we'll get some more further and better particulars about some of these issues. Rather than it's quite a lot of information to digest and on live TV. So, Randy, I'll be happy that we get copies of those documents and we'll continue the discussions to actually know what the truth is. But for me, having read the statement of the minister, I think it's been consistent with the provisions of the Constitution.
All right. So, I've just been informed that the injunction application against the anti-LGBTQ bill has been deferred for final judgment by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ordered an early trial. So, there's not been a pronouncement on it, and they have deferred the final judgment
to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So what does this mean?
For me, my initial is that maybe the case has been.
What does it mean?
It's been taken to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for interpretation, and that's
when we're kids. Remember, there's something. You know what Atala is? Acrobatics. Anyway, up next, Metro Sports.